Chapter 16:12. When Xiao Hua contentedly found the tiny green light rod, he activated his tablet and left the illusory formation. The area around him was already filled with Tai Ching sect disciples. Naturally, He Fang Yuan had broken through to Foundation establishment in the first round of the competition. This was a highlight of the Feather Immortal Assembly. How could it not attract the attention of Tai Ching sect disciples? However, when they saw a mere Qi refining stage cultivator emerge from the illusory formation, their previous admiration turned into jealousy. Was there even a need to explain further? He Fang Yuan's cultivation level was definitely high and he broke through in the illusory formation. It had nothing to do with Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua was just a lucky kid in these disciples' eyes. Xiao Hua saw the disdain in the disciples' eyes when he came out. They dispersed immediately. How could he not know the reason? Seeing that there was no trace of He Fang Yuan, he must have been taken away by Tai Ching sect's teachers to a quiet place to establish his foundation. Xiao Hua snorted coldly and sat down cross-legged, waiting for the second round of the competition. Xiao Hua. A gentle voice resounded. Xiao Hua heard it and quickly stood up. It was Zhen Qing who was walking over slowly. This area was where Imperial Thunder sect's disciples were fighting. Zhen Qing naturally knew the dangers within. She was especially attentive towards Xiao Hua and the other disciples with weaker cultivation. Earlier, when she saw He Fang Yuan come out, her heart jumped. She was afraid that Xiao Hua's corpse would be thrown out by the illusion formation. Only when Xiao Hua flew out himself, did she relax. Greetings to Ancestor Zhen. Xiao Hua said. No need to be so polite. Zhen Qing waved her hand. Take the time to rest. There are 4 battles every day. Your cultivation level is slightly lower. You need to be careful. Disciple understands. Disciple will leave after 15 minutes. Xiao Hua said without hesitation. Zhen Qing nodded. Good. Of course, this experience was good, but it also required one's life. With your cultivation level, you really shouldn't participate in the Feather Immortal Assembly. You need to use your flying technique more. Xiao Hua smiled bitterly. It is not that disciple doesn't want to use it, but the space inside the illusory formation is too small. It seems to restrict flying techniques. Zhen Qing pondered for a moment and said softly, the purpose of the Feather Immortal Assembly is to test a cultivator's temperament in a life and death situation. If they have intelligence, they will find the opportunity to establish their foundation. You must have seen that Tai Ching sect's disciple suddenly established his foundation. That was why you escaped death. Alright, do you need to repair your defensive artifact? I can lend you a hand? Xiao Hua felt warmth in his heart. He bowed. Thank you, ancestor, disciple. While he was speaking, the illusory formation beside Xiao Hua suddenly flashed with a blood-red brilliance, and with a whoosh sound, a corpse with half of its head smashed was thrown out by the formation. Zhen Qing's expression changed greatly. She ignored Xiao Hua and walked over quickly. A few Tai Ching sect's disciples who were patrolling the surroundings also rushed over. The face of the corpse was already blurred, so they couldn't see whether it was a Tai Ching sect's disciple or not. Fortunately, the corpse's clothes were still intact, and it didn't seem to be someone they knew. Zhen Qing's expression relaxed a bit, then the ball of the illusory formation flickered a few more times, and a female cultivator in the late stage of the 12th layer of the Qi refining realm flew out. When Xiao Hua took a closer look, he found that it was Li Xiaoxiao, a disciple of the Thunder Palace. At this moment, Li Xiaoxiao's face was a bit pale. She sat down cross-legged the moment she landed on the ground, took out a medicinal pill and ate it, then closed her eyes to adjust her breathing. Zhen Qing waved her hand, and a restriction formation surrounded Li Xiaoxiao. The Tai Ching sect's patrolling disciple examined the corpse's Dharma tablet, muttered a few words and sent out a summoning talisman. Not long after, an early-stage foundation establishment disciple of the Tai Ching sect and Kunlun sect's Hanzhu quickly walked over. Hanzhu looked at the corpse with a gloomy face and nodded slightly. Then the early-stage foundation establishment disciple grabbed the corpse's storage pouch, reached into it, and took out some jade slips and a magic tool from the storage pouch, then handed them to Hanzhu, and then handed the storage pouch to Zhen Qing. Zhen Qing didn't say anything. She just raised her hand and took it. Hanzhu took the jade slips and magic tool, waved his hand and put them into the storage pouch together with the corpse of the Kunlun sect's disciple. He raised his head and glanced at the crowd, then turned and left. Xiao Hua, who was watching from the side, already understood that Li Xiaoxiao won this battle and killed the Kunlun sect's disciple, so the storage pouch of the Kunlun sect's disciple belonged to Li Xiaoxiao. However, the cultivation methods and magic tools inside still had to be returned to the Kunlun sect. As for the pills, yellow talismans and other items inside the storage pouch of the Kunlun sect disciple, They were probably the prize of this battle. Sigh, all the rules of the Feather Immortal Assembly encouraged the participating disciples to kill. It's no wonder that Fang Yuan didn't compromise with I. Xiao Hua thought to himself. But in his heart, he was thinking about that meaningful glance Han Zhu had given him when he left. Others might have thought that Han Zhu had given him a casual glance, but Xiao Hua knew that Han Zhu had given him that glance. As for whether it was a warning, encouragement, or something else, Xiao Hua didn't know. Immediately Xiao Hua had a strange thought. This Han Zhu, he gave the golden puppet to me so generously, could it be that he knew I would definitely win? But then Xiao Hua laughed involuntarily. How could Han Zhu know he would definitely win? It would be good if he could survive, but if he died, the golden puppet would definitely be handed over to Imperial Thunder Sect's Zhen Qing, and Han Zhu only needed to find a reason to exchange for it, right? This was probably the reason why Han Zhu wanted to find him after the Feather Immortal Assembly, right? Why is Han Zhu looking for me? Xiao Hua pondered again. De Ming sat cross-legged in a rather large quiet room in a large pavilion to the north of the square. He seemed to be deep in thought. Zhang Yuhe and Zhang Yutong had a trace of anxiety on their faces. They seemed to be waiting for De Ming's answer. However, when Zhang Yuhe saw De Ming's lowered eyebrows, she could not help but say, "Senior De Ming, I've already explained the cause of the matter. I wonder if the Taiqing sect can lend a hand?" De Ming blinked his eyes and smiled. "I have already sent a message to my sect leader. Before I receive a reply, I'm afraid I can't say anything casually. What do you think, Senior?" "Junior only wants to hear Senior's opinion." Zhang Yuhe continued. "This." De Ming pondered for a moment and said with a smile, "After all, you two came here on your own, not on behalf of sword cultivators, not on behalf of the Shenzhen sect, so my Taiqing sect won't help you in the name of Taiqing sect." Zhang Yuhe and Zhang Yutong were extremely disappointed. They looked at each other, and Zhang Yutong said slowly, "Junior knows your sect is in a difficult position, but the Darkeen spiritual grass can only be found in the Darkeen illusory realm of Meng Kingdom. How can we enter the Darkeen illusory realm with our cultivation? So we can only ask for help from the Taiqing sect. Senior De Ming, please be merciful." De Ming shook his head slightly. "I don't know why you two want the Darkeen spiritual grass, but the Darkeen spiritual grass has few uses, and it is said that it is only useful for female cultivators with Darkeen body. Therefore, my Taiqing sect won't take a great risk to pick the Darkeen spiritual grass. What's more, the Darkeen spiritual grass grows in the most dangerous place in the Darkeen illusory realm." "Doesn't the Taiqing sect have the Darkeen spiritual grass?" Zhang Yuhe asked directly. "It's not that we don't have it," De Ming said with a smile. "My Taiqing sect has also cultivated some Darkeen spiritual grass, but the Darkeen spiritual grass can only grow in the Darkeen illusory realm, where the spiritual qi of heaven and earth is extremely abundant. It doesn't germinate easily in other places. My Taiqing sect has only cultivated a dozen Darkeen spiritual grass." "Great." Zhang Yuhe clapped her hands and said, "Senior, why don't you exchange one of them for I?" De Ming smiled bitterly. "I can't make the decision. It depends on the sect leader's order. Also, you two asked for 3,000 years of age, but the Darkeen spiritual grass in my Taiqing sect is at most 500 years old. Senior, is there really no way?" Zhang Yuhe asked with a bitter face. "What can I do?" Zhang Yutong stared at De Ming for a while and said with a smile, "Senior De Ming, you are a person of virtue and prestige, which is what I admire. Don't lie to me and my sister. What we want is the Darkeen spiritual grass, not the Darkeen spiritual grass. There are many powerful cultivators in the Taiqing sect. The Darkeen illusory realm is one of the top 10 dangerous places, but the Taiqing sect must have the Darkeen spiritual grass from the Darkeen illusory realm. We have traveled thousands of miles, so of course, we have enough sincerity to ask for the Darkeen spiritual grass. As long as your sect can take out the Darkeen spiritual grass of enough age, we will definitely take out the corresponding things to exchange for it. Be careful with your words." De Ming didn't take it seriously. He waved his hand slightly and said with a smile, "Your cultivation is not bad, but if others hear it, it may be a little troublesome." Zhang Yuhe said proudly, "If Senior De Ming, a gold core stage cultivator, bullies me and my sister, we are naturally inferior. But other cultivators? Then it depends on our means." "Yes, thank you for your reminders, Senior." Zhang Yutong said, "We have our own means to protect ourselves and, to tell you the truth, if something happens to us, the masters of the Shen Sword sect will be the first to know. Whoever did it will also be reported to the sect. At that time, Zhang Yutong's words had a double meaning, and Deming laughed it off after hearing it. While they were talking, the restrictive spell in the quiet room flashed slightly. Deming waved his hand and a dark red messaging talisman flew into his hand. Deming crushed the messaging talisman and closed his eyes to listen for a moment. Then he looked at Zhang Yuhe and Zhang Yutong's expectant eyes and said with a smile, "My sect leader has ordered that although you two are not sword cultivators, you are still guests from afar. If I can help you, I will naturally help you." "Thank you, Senior." "Thank you, Master Qing Su of the Tai Ching sect." Zhang Yutong couldn't help but bow her hands and say. But Deming still shook his head, "My two little friends, don't be anxious." "What? Could it be that your sect leader's order? Senior doesn't want to." Zhang Yuhe was anxious. Deming smiled bitterly, "My two little friends, didn't I say it just now? Even if my Tai Ching sect has the Xianin spiritual grass, it definitely doesn't have the 3,000-year-old medicinal age that you want." "It can't be. 3,000 years. It's really not that long?" Zhang Yuhe's disappointment was obviously piled up on her face. Chapter 16:13. Zhang Yutong looked a little disappointed. She smiled apologetically and said, "Senior Deming, actually, the Xianin spiritual grass that we are looking for is at least 3,000 years old. The most suitable one should be at least 4,000 years old." Sigh. Deming couldn't help but gasp. He smiled bitterly and said, "Our Tai Ching sect only has one Xianin spiritual grass that is 2,000 years old. It was found in the Xianin mirage by an elder of our sect. If this one doesn't meet your needs, I'm afraid that we won't be able to find a Xianin spiritual grass of this age in the entire Ming Kingdom. It seems that we have to go to the Xianin mirage." Zhang Yutong sighed. She looked at Zhang Yuhe. Both of them were thinking the same thing. There was a trace of decisiveness in their eyes. "My two little friends." Deming quickly waved his hand and said, "The Xianin mirage is not a place that you can enter. Even I don't dare to enter. I'm afraid that you won't be able to come out." Although Zhang Yutong and Zhang Yuhe had never been to the Xianin mirage, they had heard about the 10 most dangerous places. Naturally, there was such a place in the Huan Kingdom. They knew that there was a slim chance of survival in there. However, both of them were silent at this moment. It seemed that they had already made up their minds. This matter had nothing to do with Deming. However, seeing two young female cultivators throwing their lives into the Xianin mirage, Deming couldn't bear it. He thought for a while and said, "How about this? I'll bring the Xianin spiritual grass from our Tai Ching sect. You can see if it's suitable for you. Then we can make other plans. What do you think?" "Then, thank you, Senior," Zhang Yuhe said weakly. "By the way, Senior Deming." Zhang Yutong blinked her eyes. Her bright eyes were like stars in the night sky. She said in a low voice, "I have a presumptuous request. I don't know if I should say it." Deming smiled bitterly and said, "Of course you can. There are 13 cultivation sects from the 3 cultivation countries participating in the Feather Immortal Conference. Do they have the Xianin spiritual grass?" "My two little friends, did you think of the Xianin spiritual grass because of the Feather Immortal Conference?" Deming said with a smile. "That's right." Zhang Yuhe nodded. "Junior thinks that since there are so many people here, there might be someone who has this spiritual herb." Deming smiled bitterly in his heart. He knew very well that these disciples were all at the qi refining stage. Who would have a 3,000-year-old profoundine spirit grass? Even if he did, why would he carry it with him? As long as he was killed, the spirit grass would definitely belong to someone else. Even if he hid it in his own sect, he couldn't bring it to the Tai Ching sect. In fact, if it weren't for the fact that they were afraid of building their foundation at any time, those late-stage aura refining disciples definitely wouldn't have brought even a single foundation establishment pill. However, how could he bear to shatter their beautiful hopes? He pondered for a moment before he said, "The disciples of the various sects are participating in the Feather Immortal Gathering now. How about this? I'll tell the group leaders of the various sects about the two of you and see if they have any methods?" "Thank you, Senior." Zhang Yutong bowed. "If anyone has a 3,000-year-old spirit grass, let them come over. My sister and I will definitely thank you," Zhang Yuhe said anxiously. Hearing this, Zhang Yutong's heart skipped a beat. She smiled apologetically and said, "Senior Deming, I still have a request. About the spirit grass. Please don't make it clear. Firstly, my sister and I don't want to cause any trouble. Secondly, we don't want others to have any scruples. Don't you think so?" Deming nodded to himself. That was the reason. If he directly stated that he wanted a 3,000-year-old profoundine spirit grass, there would definitely be others who coveted the two sisters. Even if someone really had a 3,000-year-old profoundine spirit grass, they wouldn't be so tactless as to show it to others. You're right, Yutong. I will arrange this. Deming stood up and said, My two little friends are guests from afar. You should take a rest. I will take my leave now. Farewell, Senior. Zhang Yuha and Zhang Yutong quickly stood up. Senior, can we see the grand occasion of the Feather Immortal gathering? Zhang Yuha asked timidly. Looking at Zhang Yuha's lovely appearance, Deming smiled kindly and said, Of course. You sword cultivators have participated in it before. You can learn from each other and improve yourselves. Thank you, Senior. Zhang Yuha shouted excitedly. Then she pulled Zhang Yutong and said, Let's go, sister. Let's go and watch the show. When Zhang Yuha and Zhang Yutong walked out of the pavilion with Deming and arrived at the square, there were only Tai Ching sect's disciples on duty. There were also the sect leaders and vice-sect leaders. They were looking at the different illusory formations with solemn expressions. After the first round of competition, other than that Fang Yuan, no one else had broken through. Moreover, out of the 13 sects, 3 of them had lost disciples. Not only did they lose pills, spirit stones and yellow talismans, they also lost a lot of face. At this moment, Xiaohua was standing firmly on a grassland. About 100 feet away from him, there was also a late-stage Qi refinement 12th stage female cultivator. That female cultivator was Black Heaven Sect's Zhu Beibei. She had an extremely hot body and was wearing a Taoist robe that Xiaohua usually wore. Many parts of her body revealed her fair skin. Xiaohua's gaze could not help but fall on certain parts of her body. Cough cough. Fellow Taoist Zhu, Xiaohua's gaze moved to Zhu Beibei's tender face. He smiled apologetically and said, I came to the Feather Immortal Assembly to gain experience. I have no other intentions. I will exchange a few moves with Senior Sister. When the time is up, I will leave the illusory formation. How can it be so simple? Zhu Beibei sneered and waved her hand. A shiny silver lute appeared in her hand. With a flick of her slender fingers, a pleasant sound reverberated in the air. Sound attack? Xiaohua frowned. He was laughing in his heart. He was from the Myriad Thunder Valley of the Imperial Thunder Sect. Although he had only been in the Imperial Thunder Sect for a few years, he had been taught the soundless thunder technique. If he could avoid even the sound of thunder, how could this so-called Pipa be inferior to him? Senior Sister Zhu, don't push me too far. Xiaohua looked strong on the outside but weak on the inside. He shouted in exasperation, How can this poor Taoist be your opponent? Since you're here you should be prepared. Zhu Beibei sneered and the magic power in her hand surged. Ding ding dong dong, the sound waves attacked Xiaohua in circles. Xiaohua only felt dizzy, and his whole body was out of his control, as if he was a puppet being controlled by someone. Seeing that Xiaohua was under her control, the corners of Zhu Beibei's mouth revealed a trace of ridicule. Although they were both in the 12th layer of the aura refining realm, she was well aware of the difference between the late stage and early stage. Back when she was in the Profound Sky sect, she had used this method to defeat over 100 middle stage aura refining disciples during the same disciple selection. She was very confident in the might of her magic tool. The sound of the pipa continued to entangle Xiaohua. His limbs seemed to be dancing along with the sound of the pipa. Of course, Xiaohua's long limbs didn't look very good. Even Zhu Beibei couldn't help but laugh. She said to herself, This kid is really clumsy. He wants to come to the Feather Immortal Assembly to take advantage of others? Fortunately, he met me. I'll spare your life today. However, with this level of cultivation, even if he doesn't die today, he'll die tomorrow. Sigh, I really don't know why he came here instead of cultivating in the Thunder Controlling Sect. As Zhu Beibei spoke, she didn't dare to stop playing the pipa. Then she slowly walked to Xiaohua. She patted her hand and took out a confinement talisman from her storage pouch. She casually activated it with her magic power. It hit Xiaohua's body and immediately confined him. Zhu Beibei used her divine sense to sense that Xiaohua's magic power was confined. Only then did she stop playing the pipa. Then she waved her hand. It seemed like she wanted to take away the storage pouch on Xiaohua's waist. However, after she waved her hand a few times, the storage pouch was tied very tightly. She couldn't take it away. This guy is so stingy. Could it be that there's something good in the storage pouch? Zhu Beibei smiled like a flower. She seemed to have forgotten to be on guard. She quickly stepped forward, reached out and took the storage pouch. When she looked inside and saw that the storage pouch was almost empty, she couldn't help but spit on the ground. She cursed, What a poor and pedantic guy. As expected of someone at the early stage of the 12th layer of the Qi refining realm, Zhu Beibei hadn't finished speaking when a voice came from beside her ear. "Big sister, you can't insult your little brother like this, right?" That voice was right beside her ear. She could even feel the heat from Xiaohua's mouth. Zhu Beibei stared blankly at first. Then her soul flew out of her body. She really didn't expect that Xiaohua, who she already regarded as a puppet, could actually speak so easily. Moreover, after being confined by her magic tool, he was also confined by the confinement talisman. Zhu Beibei's entire body trembled at first. Then, like lightning, she was about to flee outside. Being so close to Xiaohua, Zhu Beibei had a feeling of insecurity for no reason. Unfortunately, how could she be as fast as Xiaohua? Just as her figure flew into the air, Zhu Beibei felt a huge force coming from behind her neck. It was precisely her neck that was choked. In an instant, a numb feeling attacked her whole body. Moreover, this force was very strange. It was actually able to confine all the true qi in her body, making her unable to use her magic power. "Junior brother Xiao, please spare my life." Zhu Beibei no longer cared about her dignity. She loosened her hand and threw the pipa magic tool on the messy grass. She no longer paid attention to it and shouted with all her might, "Junior brother Xiao, as long as you spare I's life, I am willing to agree to any condition of junior brother." Xiaohua licked his somewhat dry lips and said with a smile, "Senior sister Zhu, aren't you tempting me? Everything in this illusion formation can be seen from the outside." Zhu Beibei's face flushed red. She didn't think that Xiaohua would say this. She could only clench her teeth and say with difficulty, "If it's possible, senior sister can, huh? Senior sister can give the magic tool and cultivation method to I from the outside?" Xiaohua asked in amazement. "You." Zhu Beibei didn't know whether to laugh or cry in her heart. However, at the same time, her heart also relaxed for no reason. Since Xiaohua said this, she presumably didn't need to use her body to exchange for her life. What's wrong with that? Chapter 16-14. Junior brother Xiao, I'm afraid I can't give you this magical item, and I don't think I can give it to you either. However, I have some foundation establishment pills and a lot of spirit stones in my storage pouch. I can give them to you. Zhu Beibei said carefully. Great. Xiaohua said with a smile, I don't want the foundation establishment pills. I don't want to disturb senior sister's plan to build her foundation. As for spirit stones and the like, I don't deserve them. Zhu Beibei was overjoyed when she heard this. Being able to use spirit stones to exchange for a life, this was a good thing that couldn't be found even if one held a lantern. Junior brother Xiao, you can take whatever you see in senior sister's storage pouch. Zhu Beibei said very meekly. Xiaohua looked at Zhu Beibei, who was still in his hand and didn't have the chance to turn around. He couldn't describe the feeling in his heart. Yes, although he used the lightning evasion technique of Myriad Thunder Valley to avoid Zhu Beibei's sound attack, his disguise was really inferior. Zhu Beibei actually didn't find it hard to notice if she paid a little attention. Zhu Beibei had overestimated her own magic tool. She also overestimated her confinement talisman. Yes, even if he was really restrained, Zhu Beibei shouldn't be too close to him. At least she should use a few more confinement talismans and cast a few more confinement techniques and the like, right? It seems that until the last moment, no one can guarantee who will be the winner. Xiaohua's heart trembled, warning himself not to make the same mistake in the future. Moreover, having a low cultivation level isn't a shameful thing. At least, it can confuse the opponent and make them lower their guard, right? Xiaohua's thoughts were also natural. His cultivation level was indeed at the early stage of the 12th level of qi refining. As for the strength of his magic power and the amount of his true qi, it wasn't reflected in his cultivation level. If others used his cultivation level to calculate his magic power, then the difference would be thousands of miles. While thinking, Xiaohua took off Zhu Beibei's storage pouch and took all the medicinal pills except for the foundation establishment pills. He also swept away all the spirit stones. This is... Seeing a half-inch long white bone, Xiaohua's heart moved and asked, Senior sister Zhu, what is this? This thing is said to be something from Meng Mountain. Senior sister doesn't know what it is. Zhu Beibei said honestly, Senior sister, obtained it from someone else. Can you give this thing to little brother? Xiaohua said with a smile. According to the rules of the Feather Immortal Gathering, junior brother Xiao naturally can't take it. Zhu Beibei smiled and said, however, with our friendship, how can senior sister not agree to junior brother Xiao's request? When Xiaohua heard this, he didn't hesitate and put it into his space with a flip of his hand. He said with a smile, "Many thanks, senior sister." No problem, no problem. Then, little brother loosens his grip a bit and asks senior sister to activate the magic tablet. What do you think? Xiaohua said. These words were like music to Zhu Beibei's ears. She immediately nodded her head like a chicken pecking at rice. Senior sister, please. Xiaohua loosened his grip a little. He reckoned that the true qi in Zhu Beibei's meridians was barely enough to stimulate her transcendence energy, which was enough to activate the magic tablet. He didn't want to fall into the same careless end as Zhu Beibei. After seeing Xiaohua's cautiousness, Zhu Beibei didn't dare to have any other thoughts. She stimulated a trace of transcendence energy and activated the magic tablet. A ray of light flashed and Xiaohua's hand was empty. Zhu Beibei's figure disappeared from the illusory formation. At the same time Zhu Beibei's figure disappeared, outside of Xiaohua's Naiwan Palace, at the location of the heart of the Buddha relic, another Buddha light appeared out of thin air. However, this Buddha light was slightly dimmer than the previous one. Zhu Beibei leaving the illusory formation naturally caused a burst of surprise from the surrounding Taiching sect disciples. After all, the time limit of half an incense stick had just passed. Within the square, besides the cultivator from the Imperial Thunder sect, no other disciples came out. With Zhu Beibei's cultivation at the late stage of the 12th level of the Qi refining realm, there was absolutely no reason for her to be eliminated now. Seeing the gazes of all the disciples, Zhu Beibei was a bit embarrassed and angry. However, her heart immediately calmed down. Fortunately, Xiaohua was kind-hearted, and fortunately she saw that Xiaohua's cultivation was shallow and her heart softened for a moment. Only then did she save her life. Thinking about how Xiaohua was actually able to easily escape from her confinement talisman under the sound attack, she still didn't know what method Xiaohua used to capture her. Thinking about that unparalleled strength, Zhu Beibei couldn't help but shrink her neck. Her heart still had a lingering fear. Seeing the illusory formation flicker again and Xiaohua seemingly about to come out, Zhu Beibei hurriedly left and walked towards the position of the Profound Sky Sect team leader. Sure enough, when Xiaohua flew out of the illusory formation, he was once again met with the shock of the Taiching sect disciples. Of course, an early-stage 12th level Qi refining disciple was actually able to defeat a late-stage 12th level Qi refining disciple. This was something that had never happened before in their knowledge. However, everyone only pondered for a moment before they immediately winked at each other. A man and a woman alone in an illusory formation, and even lost in such a bizarre manner, no matter who it was, wouldn't their imaginations run wild? Motherfucker, what's there to see? This young master one. Xiaohua stuck out his chest and fiercely glared at the surrounding disciples. Those disciples, however, curled their lips and continued their inspection. Not far away, that Qian Diheng from the Imperial Thunder Sect's Qian Thunder Palace saw that Xiaohua actually won and immediately ran over eagerly. He said with a bashful face, "Junior Marshal brother, you seem very familiar. Did you and I meet at the Imperial Thunder Palace?" Xiaohua cupped his hands and said with a smile, "Senior Marshal brother Qian's memory isn't very good. You and I are both disciples of the Imperial Thunder Sect, so naturally we met at the Imperial Thunder Palace. This disciple's name is Xiaohua." Xiaohua, which Thunder Palace are you from?" Xiaohua's expression was the same as that of the Taiching sect's disciple just now. He curled his lips and said to himself, "How many Thunder Palaces does the Imperial Thunder Sect have? Everyone met at the Spring Thunder Palace, but this guy actually doesn't know which Thunder Palace this young master is from. Tiske, he's a bit of a weirdo." "Alright, Senior Marshal brother Qian, this disciple is from the Shocking Thunder Palace." Qian Diheng slapped his forehead and pretended to be enlightened. "Of course, Junior Marshal brother Xiao is from the Shocking Thunder Palace. Now I remember." Xiaohua laughed and asked, "Senior Marshal brother Qian, did you pass these two tests smoothly? How can I compare with you?" Qian Diheng narrowed his eyes and said with a very wretched smile, "You, an early 12th layer cultivator, can actually conquer a late 12th layer female cultivator. This brother is very envious." The word conquer was enunciated with unusual emphasis. Xiaohua said unhappily, "Senior Marshal brother Qian, don't joke around. This little brother was almost killed." Dying under a peony flower is also romantic. Qian Diheng blinked his eyes. "This honor should be given to Senior Marshal brother Qian." Xiaohua said with a smile, "Senior Marshal brother left and right should also be in the same group as her. Maybe we'll meet later." "Ai, don't mention it." Qian Diheng waved his hand and casually sat down. He said weakly, "I'm afraid I can only take a beating. If she wants my life, she still needs to cultivate for a few more years." Xiaohua rolled his eyes and asked curiously, "Why is that?" "Why?" Qian Diheng rolled his eyes and said, "You're the last of the 20 disciples of my Imperial Thunder sect, right?" "That's right." "And then this brother is the second last." As Qian Diheng said this, he patted his chest and transmitted his voice. "I originally didn't want to come, but my great-grandfather forced me to come and even gave me a blood sacrifice magic treasure. However, with this magic treasure, only Foundation establishment cultivators can break through my defense. You say, that female cultivator of yours is only at the 12th layer of the Qi refining realm. Can she hurt me?" Fine. Xiaohua secretly despised him. He came here to pass off as a fake, but he didn't expect to meet an even more experienced fake who even took out a magic treasure. "Junior Martial Brother Xiao, you have to hold on. According to the rules of my Imperial Thunder sect, as long as a disciple participates in the Feather Immortal Assembly, when they return to the sect, they will be richly rewarded. If you can get a ranking, TSK, I'm afraid that the female disciples of the Earth Thunder Palace and the converted Thunder Palace will all favor you." "Senior Martial Brother Qian, you can't be, because of this, right?" Xiaohua asked in surprise. "Nonsense, of course not. As a brother I should aim high." Qian Diheng raised his head and was about to defend himself when the spherical illusion array behind him shook violently. With a flash of brilliance, Sun Shu fell out from it. Sun Shu was wearing a white robe. At this moment, his upper body was soaked in blood and there was a 2-inch-long wound on his neck that was still spurting blood. Seeing that Sun Shu fell to the ground and didn't have the slightest strength to get up, Xiaohua's figure flashed and arrived in front of Sun Shu. At the same time, he patted his hand and sent a healing elixir of the Imperial Thunder Sect into Sun Shu's mouth. However, just as Xiaohua sent the elixir into Sun Shu's mouth, the illusory formation behind him flashed again and another middle-aged cultivator in a brown robe flew out with a ferocious face. This cultivator's body was also stained with blood. As soon as he saw Sun Shu out of the illusory formation, the sharp sword in his hand flew out and stabbed at him. "Stop!" The nearby Tai Ching sect disciple saw clearly and immediately berated. That middle-aged cultivator simply didn't stop. Seeing that the flying sword was about to stab Sun Shu, Xiaohua was squatting beside Sun Shu at this moment. He also didn't expect that the cultivator would still attack after coming out of the illusory formation. However, Xiaohua's hands and feet were very fast. With a backhand grab he grabbed the flying sword. "Umph!" That middle-aged cultivator sneered. The sharp sword immediately flashed with about half an inch of brilliance. It looked very sharp. If Xiaohua grabbed it, he might not be able to keep his fingers. This. Xiaohua's heart was slightly hesitant, but he immediately made up his mind. The momentum of his palm didn't change. Just as Xiaohua decided to attack, a third Buddhist light appeared at the heart of the Buddha Saraira. This Buddhist light was the same as the first one. With a dang sound, a purple brilliance flashed past Xiaohua's eyes with incomparable speed and hit the sharp sword. With a pu sound, the sharp sword was sent flying by the purple brilliance and fell on the ground of the lattice, deeply stabbing into the ground. Soon after, that purple brilliance was like a spirit serpent, turning around and flying back. Xiaohua was very close to that purple brilliance. He clearly saw that this purple brilliance was a 3-inch-long small sword. Sword cultivator. Xiaohua's eyes slightly narrowed as he secretly said in his heart. Chapter 16-15. Flying Sword. Sword Cultivator. Xiaohua's heart shook as he thought of the green and purple sword energy that came from outside the bright realm. At the same time, he also thought of the 9 sword pills in his small storage space. By the time Xiaohua raised his head, sure enough, Zhang Yuhe was a little further away from them. She had just received the returning violet flying sword and swallowed it whole. "How dare you!" In front of Zhang Yuhe, Imperial Thunder Sect's Zhen Qing leaped up and struck out a spell seal. A lightning net appeared out of thin air and quickly enveloped the middle-aged cultivator. The middle-aged cultivator seemed to have exhausted all of his magic power and was unable to put up any resistance before he was bound by the lightning. Behind Zhen Qing, another golden core state cultivator snorted and said, "Fellow cultivator Zhen, what is the meaning of this?" "Fellow cultivator Liao, what do you think I mean? Is this your Changbai sect's disciple?" "My Imperial Thunder sect's disciple has already left the illusion formation. Why is he still chasing her?" Zhen Qing sneered. The golden core state cultivator was the leader of the Changbai sect, Liao Zhouquan. He waved his hand and also used a spell to release the lightning on the middle-aged cultivator. He said, "Even if my Changbai sect's disciple made a mistake, fellow cultivator Zhen has no right to punish him." As he spoke, Liao Zhouquan had already walked over to Xiaohua and the others. He lowered his head to look at Sun Shu and then at the middle-aged cultivator. He kicked him and cursed angrily, "Lu Weigang, did you eat a leopard's gall? I told you before we came that if my Changbai sect's disciple wants to win, we have to win fair and square. This female cultivator has already left the illusion formation. Why are you still chasing her? Because you know how to use a flying sword? This is called knowing how to use a flying sword. You really don't know shame." Zhang Yuhe sneered, "Flying swords are the most righteous. We sword cultivators use righteous hearts to nurture and control swords so that flying swords have spirituality. This kind of dirty heart can only be a dead sword. It's a disgrace to the imperial sword technique." "Sister," Zhang Yutong pulled Zhang Yuhe's arm and whispered, "This is the internal affairs of the 3 cultivation countries." "What internal affairs? This lady is disgusted to see someone distort the sword intent and only know how to use a flying sword to kill people." Zhang Yuhe continued to berate. Lu Weigang's face was ashen as he stared viciously at Zhang Yuhe. "What are you looking at? If you keep looking, I'll dig your eyes out." Zhang Yuhe shouted. "Wow, just now you were teaching people to use justice to drive their swords, and now you want to use your flying sword to kill people." Xiaohua, who was squatting on the ground, snickered in his heart. "A fellow Taoist Liao." Renju also walked out from the side and sighed. "This disciple of your sect has violated the taboo of the Feather Immortal Assembly by chasing out of the illusory formation and injuring the enemy. I have no choice but to expel him from the Feather Immortal Gathering this time and face him head-on." Liao Zhouquan nodded and said, "You're right, fellow Taoist Ren. This taboo was agreed upon by all 13 sections. Naturally, it has to be kept." After he finished speaking, he kicked Lu Weigang again and scolded, "Go back and pack up. You have 2 hours to get out of the brilliant territory and return to Changbai Peak yourself. When you return to the sect, immediately reflect on your actions." "I won't return. Before the sect decides what to do, you are not allowed to take a single step out." Lu Weigang stood up and lowered his head. He picked up the sharp sword from the ground and said softly, "Disciple obeys." After he finished speaking, he staggered out of the plaza. "How is this little friend?" Renju lowered her head and looked at Sun Shu. "Senior, please no. He has already consumed the elixir of our sect. He should be fine." Xiaohua replied. Renju scanned with her divine sense and nodded. "That's good. Your sect's disciples have all obtained 3 points. Changbai sect's Lu Weigang has been expelled from the brilliant territory, so he will be considered to have forfeited. All the disciples who fought against him will take a break and obtain 3 points directly. Thank you, fellow Taoist, for upholding justice." Zhen Qing cupped her hands and said, "It's my duty, it's my duty." Renju waved her hand and turned around to look at Zhang Yutong and Zhang Yuhe. She smiled and said, "I have to go and keep watch. Fellow Taoists, please do as you wish." After she finished speaking, she cupped her hands and left. Other than Zhen Qing, the other leaders also left. Zhen Qing was stunned for a moment. Seeing that Sun Shu was fine, she also left. Only Qian Diheng glanced at Zhang Yuhe and Zhang Yutong. He wanted to move closer to them, but he was fiercely glared at by Zhang Yuhe. Only then did he slowly move away. "What are these Golden Core Realm seniors talking about with these 2 disciples of the Sword Sect?" Xiaohua couldn't help but wonder after everyone left. "Little junior brother, is your senior sister all right?" Zhang Yuhe squatted down and looked at Sun Shu. She looked at Xiaohua with her beautiful eyes and asked, "You are really good. You actually used your hand to catch the flying sword. Don't you want your fingers anymore?" "Little junior brother? How am I small?" Xiaohua touched his nose and looked at the 2 pure and pleasant sword cultivators. He smiled and said, "I didn't think too much at that time. I only felt that if I didn't catch the flying sword, my senior sister's life would be in danger. Do you think I should catch it or not?" "Resolute, resolute, decisive." Zhang Yuhe praised, "Kid, you are a good seedling for sword cultivation. This kind of righteous and compassionate heart is the easiest way to get the flying sword's approval. Don't listen to his nonsense." Zhang Yutong reminded, "Cultivators all have spells. He must have a spell in his hand and a controlling technique. The flying sword can't hurt him." "Is that so, little cultivator?" Zhang Yuhe asked curiously. "Is it very important?" "My intentions are all ordinary," Xiaohua said with a smile. "Good." Zhang Yuhe clapped and said, Little cultivator, you are very interesting. What is your name? Which sect are you from? I am Xiaohua, a disciple of the Imperial Thunder sect. Xiaohua cupped his hands and said, Xiaohua, your name is good. Zhang Yuhe smiled and said, the Imperial Thunder sect's Dao technique is good. Unfortunately, it is still inferior to my sword cultivation. With your pure heart, if you cultivate my sword cultivation technique, you will definitely shine. Are you interested in betraying your sect? Xiaohua smiled bitterly and shook his head repeatedly. Thank you for your high opinion, fellow Taoists. I don't have any thoughts of seeking a higher branch. When I really can't stay in the Imperial Thunder sect anymore, I will go look for fellow Taoists. There won't be such a shop after this village. Zhang Yuhe waved her hand and said, this is a one-time deal. If you agree, I will accept you on behalf of my master. A one-time deal? Xiaohua couldn't help but laugh out loud. What kind of analogy is this? Fellow Taoist, don't listen to my elder sister's nonsense. The Imperial Thunder sect's Dao technique is outstanding and is a famous sect in the country of Xi. Fellow Taoist is also fated to be in the Imperial Thunder sect. How can you casually betray your sect? Zhang Yutong saw that Zhang Yuhe was becoming more and more outrageous and hurriedly stopped her. Thank you for your reminder, fellow Taoist. I won't go so far. Tisich, you want to be my disciple, but I won't accept you. Zhang Yuhe curled her lips and said. Xiaohua's heart moved and he said with a smile, if fellow Taoist has the heart, why don't you give me the cultivation method of your noble sect's flying sword and let I comprehend it? You're dreaming. Zhang Yuhe rolled her eyes at Xiaohua and said, you want to learn flying sword, but you don't want to enter my Huanjin sect. How can there be such a good thing? You might as well go and dream. After saying that, she casually said, otherwise if you have a 6,000 years old profound Yin spirit grass. But before Zhang Yuhe finished speaking, Zhang Yutong stopped her from the side and said, elder sister. Zhang Yuhe knew that she had said something wrong and hurriedly covered her mouth. Her eyes rolled and she was very cute. She pointed her finger and said, Xiaohua, your senior sister is awake. Xiaohua lowered his head. Sun Shu still had his eyes closed. When he raised his head again, Zhang Yuhe had already pulled Zhang Yutong away. As they walked, they looked back with a guilty conscience. Who is the younger one? Xiaohua was speechless. Xiaohua, how is Sun Shu? Zhen Qing, who had just left, came over with a few disciples who had just come out of the illusion array. Coincidentally, Sun Shu groaned and slowly opened his eyes. Seeing Xiaohua beside him, he was very surprised and asked curiously, Junior brother Xiao? Why are you here? Me? Why can't I be here? Sun Shu asked curiously. Xiaohua could only answer vaguely. Senior sister Sun. Beside Zhen Qing, Li Xiaoxiao's expression was also not good. She quickly walked over to Sun Shu and helped him up. Martial ancestor Zhen. Sun Shu saw Zhen Qing and said embarrassedly, Changbai sect's disciple called Lu Weigang was too fierce, I couldn't beat him. When he said this, his pale face turned slightly red. It's fine, it's fine. Zhen Qing's divine sense swept over and knew that Sun Shu was fine. She smiled and said, take a pill and rest. That Changbai sect disciple has already made a mistake and was expelled. You have already taken 3 points. Ah? What happened? Sun Shu was stunned. Ah, you should ask Xiaohua about this. Zhen Qing said, moreover, you should thank Xiaohua for saving your life. This. Sun Shu sat on the ground and looked at Xiaohua, who was standing some distance away from him. He was even more shocked. Don't, martial ancestor Zhen, it was obviously that sword cultivator who did it. It has nothing to do with this disciple. You think I don't know? Even if that sword cultivator didn't do it, could you have let that bastard sword stab your senior sister? Zhen Qing's gaze was very warm. Junior brother Xiao, what is going on? Sun Shu bit his lip and asked. Indeed, she had only met Xiaohua a few times and was saved twice in such a short time. How could she not be shocked? At this time, the surrounding disciples, including a few from the Heavenly Thunder Palace, were all looking at Xiaohua curiously. They looked at this disciple who had just reached the early stage of the 12th Qi refining realm. They didn't even put him in their eyes. Xiaohua scratched his head and had no choice but to tell them what happened just now. The Imperial Thunder sect disciples were furious. The tall and thin Chen Hong and Chen Mo couldn't help but curse. This Changbai sect disciple is really shameless. He actually chased out of the illusion formation to assassinate. If it wasn't for junior brother Xiao, even if that bastard was dealt with, junior sister Sun's life wouldn't have been saved. Junior brother Xiao, you did the right thing. I didn't think that you would dare to face a late-stage 12th Qi refining disciple with your cultivation. I really admire you. Qian Ping even patted Xiaohua's shoulder and said, in the future if you have any problems in the Imperial Thunder Sect, feel free to look for this elder brother. There's nothing to say. Based on your benevolence and righteousness, this elder brother can help you. Chapter 16:16. Sun Shu's eyes were filled with gratitude, but there was also a lingering fear and a trace of uneasiness. Xiaohua saw that everyone was pushing all the credit to him and throwing all the blame to Lu Weigang. He didn't even ask why Lu Weigang was so furious that he chased out of the illusory formation to kill Sun Shu. He could only rub his nose and smile apologetically. This is what I should do. Senior sister Sun Shu is everyone's junior sister, and also I's senior sister. If I didn't save her, I would be destroyed by the heavens and the earth. However, this is the Feather Immortal Assembly, and there are 2 more rounds today, both of which are life and death matters. I's cultivation is just for show. Senior brothers, you still have to prepare to find a good opportunity to build your foundation. Everyone's face turned cold when they heard Xiaohua mention the competition. Of course, it was necessary to care for one's fellow disciples. They also had to have the opportunity to care for others. Now that every round was a life and death battle, how could they not take it seriously? Everyone comforted him and sat cross-legged on the side. They took pills and closed their eyes to adjust their breathing. Xiaohua was about to leave when Sun Shu said in a low voice, Junior brother Xiao, thank you again. Ah, it's nothing. Xiaohua said with a smile, I was still thinking about the benefits senior sister gave me. Sun Shu knew that Xiaohua didn't think so, so she forced a smile and nodded at him. She also took out a pill and took it. The 3rd round of the competition was probably going to start soon. Senior sister Sun. Xiaohua looked at Sun Shu and took half a step forward. He said in a low voice, Senior sister, you're seriously injured. If you can't do it, you can just forfeit the next round. Why do you have to do this? Sun Shu smiled bitterly. All the disciples who come to the Feather Immortal Assembly are aiming for that moment of life and death, to be able to gain some enlightenment and find a chance to build their foundation. If they have the freedom to forfeit, who would be afraid? Who would go all out? Who would be able to build their foundation under such pressure? Therefore, there is only one chance to forfeit in this Feather Immortal Assembly, and that is to withdraw from the Feather Immortal Assembly. I just finished 2 rounds. It's really too early to withdraw now. Then he looked at Xiaohua and said, I heard that the disciple who fought against you in the 1st round was lucky enough to reach the foundation establishment stage. I'm very envious. Stepping into the foundation establishment stage so smoothly without going through a test of life and death, there hasn't been a single person like that in several Feather Immortal gatherings. What? Xiaohua said in his heart, if it weren't for I being kind, how could that guy build his foundation? I'm afraid he's already cultivating in the underworld. However, he didn't explain. He pointed at Sun Shu's bloody clothes and said, then? Senior sister, you should at least change your clothes, right? Oh, all right. Female cultivators had always been fond of beauty and cleanliness. How could Xuanshu be an exception? However, at this time her qi and blood were both damaged, making it difficult for her to walk. She wanted to wait until she recovered before returning to the pavilion to change her clothes. Now that she heard Xiaohua's words, she glanced at Li Xiaoxiao, who was circulating her internal energy, and said with a smile, Junior Martial Brother Xiao, please help me. With a smile on his face, Xiaohua confidently raised his arm and said, Senior sister's orders, how could I dare to disobey? Sun Shu almost wanted to cover his mouth and laugh. So sour. After saying that, Sun Shu supported Xiaohua's arm and stood up. Senior sister, don't move. Little brother will take you back. After saying that, Xiaohua formed an incantation gesture with his other hand and grabbed Sun Shu's waist out of thin air. With a slight lift, Sun Shu's feet left the ground. Xiaohua quickly brought Sun Shu back to the pavilion. Actually, Junior Martial Brother should regulate your breathing more. Didn't you say it yourself just now? Sun Shu felt a bit uncomfortable and tried to find something to say. However, when she said that, she felt a bit strange. Xiaohua's attention didn't seem to be on her. When she turned her head to look, she saw that Xiaohua was looking into the distance with a slightly dazed expression. And? Sun Shu was surprised. When she looked up, she saw that in the distant square, there were also 2 people walking out. These 2 people were a man and a woman. The man was as handsome as jade, and the woman was as beautiful as a fairy. Sun Shu had seen these 2 people before. They were Yun Jiechong and Fairy Hong Xia from the Rinsing Flower sect. Fairy Hong Xia and Yun Jiechong had also seen Xiao Hua and Sun Shu from afar. Fairy Hong Xia first looked at Xiao Hua, then quickly swept her gaze over Sun Shu. After that, her eyes turned and looked elsewhere. Sun Shu very sensitively sensed that in Fairy Hong Xia's gaze, there was a trace of hostility. The moment Fairy Hong Xia's gaze flashed, Sun Shu also sensed that Xiao Hua's hand, which had been as steady as a rock, trembled slightly. This tremble didn't matter, but it directly shook Sun Shu's heart. She. Sun Shu inexplicably felt an indescribable feeling. Fairy Hong Xia's gaze swept over, and Yun Jiechong's gaze naturally followed. Yun Jiechong's gaze was still warm, like the rising sun. However, he didn't come forward to greet them, but only nodded slightly. There was only warmth in his gaze, and there was only warmth. There wasn't a trace of surprise, nor was there a trace of joy. Sun Shu didn't speak, and neither did Xiao Hua. Fairy Hong Xia looked ahead with a cold face, and Yun Jiechong also looked ahead with a smile. The four of them almost brushed past each other and didn't even make eye contact. Walking back to the pavilion, Sun Shu opened the door of the quiet room and said in a low voice, "I have changed my clothes and am preparing to rest in the quiet room. If junior brother Xiao is still thinking about the third match, you can go back first." Xiao Hua nodded slightly, turned around and left. Sun Shu held the door of the quiet room with his hand. There was a kind of desire in his heart, a desire that Xiao Hua could stay outside his quiet room. It seemed that with him around he would only feel safe. When Xiao Hua's figure disappeared, Sun Shu shook his head with a bitter smile and thought to himself, "What's wrong with me? Not to mention Fairy Hong Xia, even Xue Xue. I seem to." Then Sun Shu entered the quiet room and opened the restriction. Xiao Hua couldn't say what he was feeling. Fairy Hong Xia's gaze kept flashing before his eyes as if he was an irrelevant person, a transparent person. "What's wrong with me?" Xiao Hua scratched his head. The more he didn't think about it and ignored Fairy Hong Xia, the more he thought about that beautiful face, and that gaze that used to be filled with concern. There were already many disciples in the square, but the third round of matches still hadn't started. Xiao Hua looked at the disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect, who were already sitting cross-legged with their eyes closed, and thought to himself, perhaps it's to give the disciples a chance to rest. Therefore Xiao Hua also found a place to close his eyes and cultivate. As time passed, even Xiao Hua, who didn't want to fight, started to feel anxious. "What's wrong?" He frowned. According to the rules of the Feather Immortal Gathering, it was impossible for them to rest for such a long time. As expected, after Xiao Hua stood up, a moment later, not far from his right, an illusory array in a grid emitted a dark red brilliance and countless noises came from there. "What's wrong?" Xiao Hua secretly scanned the area with his Buddhist awareness, which he didn't dare to release. In the dark red grid, in the middle of a group of disciples, two badly mutilated corpses fell to the ground. At this moment, there were 3 cultivators standing in front of the corpses. One was Renju from the Taiching sect, another was Li Mingqing, the leader of the Xinghua sect, and the last one was Xie Hui, the leader of the Utopia faction. The 3 of them looked serious. Renju scanned the 2 of them with her spiritual sense, and then she raised her head and asked, "Fellow cultivator Li, your disciples have lost their vitality. What do you think?" Li Mingqing nodded but didn't answer. "What about fellow cultivator Xie?" Renju turned her head and asked Xie Hui, "Your disciples have also lost their vitality." "Alas, yes. This kid." Xie Hui sighed slightly. Although it's important to build their foundation, they need to be alive to do so. The time limit of 15 minutes has passed. It's fine if they give up first. Why do they have to be so stubborn? That's right. Our original intention of holding the Feather Immortal Assembly was to allow the disciples to find a trace of opportunity to build their foundation through the competition, but not to let them fight with their lives on the line. Li Mingqing also sighed. The eyes of the surrounding disciples were also filled with pity, but more of it was as if they had experienced the same sorrow, as if they were in the same situation. Actually, sometimes, expectations are also a kind of burden that can't be borne. Renju, who was enforcing the rules impartially, also sighed, "Sometimes don't we put too much pressure on the disciples?" Li Mingqing, Xie Hui and the rest were silent. Beside them Zhenqing, Xiongfei and the rest were also deep in thought. But, if they don't build their foundation, how can they be considered as cultivators? If they don't build their foundation, wouldn't the decades of hard work of cultivation be wasted? A voice was heard. Xiao Hua looked over and saw the white-haired Li Zongbao. "We cultivators are already nature-defying. If we don't go against the current, we will definitely be washed to the bottom of the valley. Using our bodies to seek Tao, using our lives to question the heavens, isn't that what we pursue? If we don't have such thoughts, what's the point of building our foundation, the gold core stage and the nascent soul stage? Li Zongbao's voice wasn't loud, but it was powerful. Renju and the rest also realized that this was the feather immortal meat. Although it was a pity that the disciples of the utmost happiness faction and the highest glory faction perished together, if the hundreds of disciples were discouraged and couldn't make any progress on the path of cultivation, wouldn't it be a waste of effort? The sins of the gold core stage cultivators would be great. Therefore Renju clapped her hands and laughed. Li Zongbao, you are indeed the most intelligent person in the three kingdoms of cultivation. Only such wisdom in seeking Tao can comprehend your sect's parting mirror. After hearing what you said, I believe that in the near future fellow cultivator Li will appear in the ranks of the gold core stage cultivators. Li Zongbao. He is Li Zongbao. It is said that he is only in his 20s, but he is already a senior in the foundation establishment stage. He is really powerful. Yes, it is said that the parting mirror is also a famous cultivation method of the utmost happiness faction. It can cut off all worldly desires and achieve supreme Tao. But why did Senior Li's hair turn white so early? It seems that, when he just came to the bright realm, his hair didn't turn white. Of course, it is because he is cultivating the parting mirror. Without worldly desires, what's the use of a physical appearance? Only with such a pure heart can one achieve Tao. The disciples started to discuss spiritedly, and their low spirits were stirred up again. Renju saw that the time was right and hurriedly waved her hands. Disciples, the third round of the competition is about to begin. I hope that everyone can follow Li Zongbao's example and think more carefully and understand more. We will strive to have more foundation establishment stage cultivators. Chapter 16-17. The second round of the competition ended with the last pair of disciples dying together. Presumably, these two people's fates would alert the others and prevent them from doing anything stupid. Soon, the third round of the competition began. When Xiaohua was pulled into the illusion formation by the Dharma token, there were no disciples from other sects waiting nearby. Xiaohua was still muttering in his heart. Was the person he was going to face this round Lu Weigang, who had just been expelled from Hao Domain? If it was this guy, wouldn't Xiaohua get a bye? Could he get all 3 points without making a move? Unfortunately, Xiaohua had just entered the illusion not long ago. Before he could clearly see the lush mountain forest under his feet, not far away, a bright ball of light flashed by. A middle-aged cultivator with a medium height and a very tall and sturdy figure walked out from the brilliance with his hands behind his back. Xiaohua's lips curled into a smile as he cupped his hands. However, before he could finish speaking, the middle-aged cultivator smashed the hand hidden behind his back and laughed sinisterly. I know you are a disciple of Imperial Thunder sect. Prepare to die. An emerald green bamboo-like magic artifact flickered as it flew into the air, instantly enveloping Xiaohua within the emerald green light. Xiaohua was shocked. He didn't dare to be negligent. With a wave of his hand, the witch dust was held in his hand. With a push of his magic power, the witch dust flew above Xiaohua's head. Without waiting for the witch dust's brilliance to scatter, the middle-aged cultivator had already prepared a spell seal on the magic artifact. With a rumbling sound, fist-thick and 3-meter-wide green wooden strips appeared around Xiaohua and rolled towards him. Xiaohua didn't have time to activate the witch dust's brilliance, but seeing these numerous green wooden strips, he didn't panic. He sneered, "Where did this wild brat come from? You actually don't dare to report your name?" This middle-aged cultivator's magic artifact seemed similar to He Fang Yuan's Tai Green Light Rod. Since Xiaohua could move freely under Tai Green Light Rod, he naturally didn't care about these green wooden strips. Rumble. Following the rolling sound of the green wooden strips, Xiaohua's figure swayed freely within the green wooden strips. Every time he would inadvertently dodge an attack that appeared out of nowhere. The middle-aged cultivator seemed to have never seen such a dodging method before. He sneered, "Imperial Thunder sect disciples have always been so cunning. What kind of demonic technique is this? You're a disciple of the Changbai sect?" Xiaohua abruptly came to a realization, and he instantly understood why the middle-aged cultivator had long since concealed his magic tool and flew into the illusory realm. This fellow's intention was precisely to leave his life within the illusory realm. Xiaohua's eyes gradually narrowed, and the anger in his heart grew stronger. "It's just this kind of insignificant skill and you want to take my life?" Xiaohua sneered. "Haha, A kid in the early stage of the 12th layer dares to talk to me like that? The middle-aged cultivator laughed and said, I'm afraid that I'm the only one who can easily complete this task. Mission. Xiao Hua's heart went cold when he heard this, and he instantly understood that the disciples of the Changbai sect and Lightning Control sect would probably fight to the death in this round. As he spoke, the middle-aged cultivator changed his hand seal again, and the green wooden strips that rolled down from Xiao Hua's head suddenly spread out in all directions, and like a flood, they rolled down toward Xiao Hua from all directions. Come at me. Xiao Hua didn't seem to be nervous at all, and his ethereal steps became even more proficient. His body shuttled back and forth between the green wooden strips, leaving behind afterimages. This time passed very quickly, and seeing that the time limit of half an incense stick was about to be up, the middle-aged cultivator was afraid that Xiao Hua would escape from the illusory realm, so he clenched his teeth and spat out a mouthful of blood, which landed on the bamboo-shaped magic tool above Xiao Hua's head. There was a burst of crackling sounds and the brilliance was exceptionally bright. When the brilliance gradually returned to normal, there were faint traces of dark red within the emerald green light. Go! The middle-aged cultivator formed a spell with both hands, and the bamboo-shaped magic tool gradually disintegrated, turning into a dozen emerald green jade strips within the brilliance, and those jade strips began to slowly rotate within the brilliance, and the rotation path was very mysterious. The middle-aged cultivator's magic tool began to change, and Xiao Hua, who was covered by the magic tool, couldn't help but be dumbfounded. The green wooden strips that were just as thick as a fist actually gradually expanded to become as thick as an arm, and then they continued to change. In the end, they actually turned into thick green wooden strips that an adult couldn't wrap around with both arms. Previously, Xiao Hua was still able to move freely and easily within the gaps between the green wooden strips, but now, countless huge green wooden strips were colliding with each other, creating huge rumbling sounds. How could there be any gaps for Xiao Hua to use the ethereal steps? What should I do? Xiao Hua clapped his hands and first wanted to take out the demonic spear, but when his eyes saw the green wooden strips emitting boundless green light, Xiao Hua suddenly came to his senses. With a wave of his hand, he took out the spirit crow fire net. Xiao Hua didn't dare to be negligent, and just as he took out the fire net, he immediately urged his magic power, casting the fire net in midair. The spirit crow fire net flew up in clumps, and as the fire net unfolded, the surrounding fire attribute spiritual energy was gradually sucked into the surroundings. Seeing strands of flames appear on the fire net, Xiao Hua laughed loudly. I'll let you, this ruffian, experience this young master's methods. Subsequently, a dozen fist-sized fire crows flew out from the spirit crow fire net, and flames curled around their bodies. They flew towards the green wooden strips that were already pressing down on Xiao Hua's head. Boom! Like dry wood meeting a raging fire, the green wooden strips immediately combusted. Within the flames, the rolling green wooden strips gradually disappeared, and once again turned into green gas, disappearing between heaven and earth. Hee, Xiao Hua looked at the surrounding green wooden strips that fell into the flames and coldly laughed. Using fire to restrain wood, he should have thought of this earlier. Haha, ignorant child. You think you can escape this old man's green wooden array like this? The middle-aged cultivator in midair also sneered. You're nothing but a child at the early stage of the 12th level of chi refining. As he spoke, he once again urged his magic power. Within the green light, even more and thicker green wooden strips came down with even greater momentum. Xiao Hua's dozens of fire crows were immediately submerged in the green light transformed from the green wooden strips. Ignorant old man. Xiao Hua was furious and similarly waved his hands. Several spells struck the spirit crow fire net, and 70% of his magic power was poured into it. The spirit crow fire net was suffused with extremely beautiful flames. Caw, caw. Several fire crows cried out in succession. This time, unexpectedly, only 9 fire crows flew out from the spirit crow fire net. However, this time, the 9 fire crows were countless times stronger than the previous dozens of fire crows. Moreover, within the flames of these fire crows, there was a faint purple color. Boom! Several loud sounds rang out. It was the sound of the fire crows crashing into the green wooden strips. The green wooden strips looked very large, but when they collided with the 9 fire crows, they immediately combusted. The burning green gas was also ignited by the flames. However, in a few breaths of time within several zhang of Xiao Hua, all of the green wooden strips were ignited. These fire crows actually have samadhi true fire? The middle-aged cultivator vaguely saw the purple color on the fire crows and knew things were bad. Pung! Another sound rang out. Within the green light emitted by the magic tool, a figure covered in flames came out. It was Xiaohua who had escaped. Xiaohua rushed out of the green wooden array, seemingly without stopping. Urging his magic power, his figure quickly flew towards the middle-aged cultivator, preparing to kill this old man. So fast. The middle-aged cultivator was slightly surprised, but he wasn't nervous. He slapped his hand and took out a crimson-red rope from his storage pouch. He threw it into the air. The red rope was thin and short, just like the red headband a little girl usually used to tie her hair. However, as the middle-aged cultivator's magic power spread out, the rope grew with the wind. In the blink of an eye, it became a long rope like a python. Why does this old man have so many magic tools? Xiaohua was greatly alarmed. He pointed his hand, and the black dust above his head emitted an earth-yellow brilliance that protected Xiaohua. Fortunately, Xiaohua had urged the black dust in advance. Just as the brilliance protected Xiaohua, the python-like long rope circled in the air and fell toward Xiaohua. It seemed to want to bind Xiaohua. Seeing the long rope fall, Xiaohua hurriedly dodged. The long rope seemed to have intelligence. No matter how Xiaohua dodged, the long rope circled around him. Helpless, Xiaohua used his flight technique, wanting to fly away. However, after flying for about 10 feet, the flight technique that Xiaohua was so proud of was caught up by the rope, and Xiaohua was tied up without any explanation. Fortunately, Xiaohua now had the protection of the black dust's brilliance. The long rope could only bind the brilliance and couldn't truly land on Xiaohua's body. However, even so, Xiaohua faintly felt that the magic power in his body was somewhat stagnant. Moreover, the protective brilliance of the black dust also began to faintly flicker. It seemed that the long rope was also attacking the brilliance. What should I do? Xiaohua was somewhat at his wit's end. He wanted to withdraw from the illusory formation, but he felt unwilling in his heart. The spirit crow fire net was restrained by the greenwood formation and temporarily couldn't be used. He wanted to use the Samadhi true fire, but he was afraid that the long rope wouldn't be afraid and he would instead reveal his trump card in advance. Alas, I still don't have enough magic tools. Xiaohua was now somewhat regretful. He shouldn't have coveted the fragments of magic treasures and sword pellets. Damn it. If the black dust is broken by this long rope, I'm afraid this young master will first be bound by the long rope. At that time, how will I have the power to fight back? Whatever trump card, whatever Samadhi true fire, they won't be of any use. Xiaohua's mind sobered up. He extended his left hand and a streak of Samadhi true fire emerged from his palm, burning towards the long rope. You really know how to use Samadhi true fire? The middle-aged cultivator shouted in disbelief. The expression on his face, which was already not relaxed, became even more dignified. He seemed to hesitate for a moment, then pointed his finger. The long rope very nimbly flowed around the brilliance around Xiaohua's body, preventing it from being burned by the Samadhi true fire. As for himself, he stretched out his hand and untied a pouch from his waist. He chanted an incantation and waited for a moment before opening the pouch. A pitch-black strange insect that looked like a centipede but was completely different flew out from the pouch. Spirit storage pouch? Spirit insect? Xiaohua had always been paying attention to the cultivator's actions. When he saw that the cultivator was actually able to release a strange insect, he didn't care about using fire to burn the long rope and turned pale with fright. Chapter 16-18. Ever since Xiaohua saw the spirit husbandry sect disciples use the spirit storage bag to release Fei Qin, he had never seen a cultivator use the spirit storage bag again. Naturally, he knew how precious the spirit storage bag was. Furthermore, he had also seen the power of Fei Qin. He knew that as long as a cultivator used a spirit beast, it would be an extremely powerful one. He had no choice but to raise his vigilance. The strange insect flew into the air and became bigger and bigger in a ball of black gas. Xiaohua could clearly see that this strange insect was like a centipede. It had a body that had more than 10 segments, but it didn't have as many legs. Furthermore, the head that was flying toward Xiaohua was a ball of black, like an extremely hard shell. It was impossible to see its face clearly. The most eye-catching thing was the two antennae on top of its head that were like clamps. The antennae were very sharp, and the tip revealed a cold light that was close to a sword. The strange insect twisted its waist, and a faint black gas was released. It let out a kind of hoarse sound and in the blink of an eye, it flew to within 3 feet of Xiaohua. Xiaohua didn't dare to be negligent. He waved the Samadhi true fire with one hand to search for the long rope, and took out the devil spear with the other hand. With a wave of his hand, he struck in the direction of the strange insect. However, just as his hand reached out beyond the dust and yellow brilliance, that long rope was like the tail of a spirit snake, coiling toward Xiaohua's arm. Without waiting for it to truly coil around him, Xiaohua could feel the magic power on his arm already condensing. Good. What kind of magic tool is this? Xiaohua was shocked. Although he didn't use magic power, he was still afraid of being bound by the long rope, so he quickly retracted his arm. With a hong sound, when Xiaohua retracted his arm, the strange insect flew to Xiaohua's side and hit the yellow light barrier. The strength of this strange insect was extremely strong, and the antennae at the tip were also very sharp. Under the collision, the dust shook slightly, and the yellow light barrier shook violently. At the point of impact, a small black dot appeared. Clearly, a small dot was broken through the dust barrier. Using strength to break through? Xiaohua was shocked. This strange insect can actually use strength to break through. Xiaohua was shocked and he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The method that he had always regarded as his trump card had actually appeared on this strange insect's body. Moreover, using this method to attack him, it was really like showing off one's slight skill in front of an expert. However, what made Xiaohua even more surprised was that the strange insect actually borrowed the force of the collision to turn around. Its entire body curled up into a ball, and then it rushed over again. The force of the impact wasn't any less than before, and it crashed into his light barrier again. The same black dot appeared on the light barrier. The strange thing was that this black dot was the same as the previous black dot. It remained on the light barrier and couldn't be restored. At this moment it looked very small, almost negligible. But if time passed or if this strange insect was a little more agile, it would all attack the same spot. The Xiaohua's defensive light barrier would definitely be broken. What should we do? Xiaohua felt a chill run down his spine as he looked at the middle-aged cultivator who was hovering in the air not too far away. The middle-aged cultivator had a ferocious expression on his face and his face was somewhat pale. Xiaohua appeared to be at a loss as to what to do next. While Xiaohua was pondering, the strange insect had actually attacked him 10 times in a row. Wasn't this the same method that Xiaohua had used to bully others in the past? But now, this strange insect was actually using it to deal with Xiaohua. Hahan, little brat from the Imperial Thunder sect, now you know the power of my Changbai sect? The middle-aged cultivator said arrogantly, if you want to run, then run now. I won't chase after you. I know you're a coward. You're in the same group as my Changbai sect disciple. If I don't deal with you today, there will be other senior brothers who will deal with you tomorrow. I don't believe that an early-stage 12th stage Qi refinement disciple like you can overturn the heavens. Damn it, you have a spirit insect, but so do I. Xiaohua knew that this middle-aged cultivator was trying to provoke him and was afraid that he would run away. But he also had methods that he hadn't used yet, so how could he give up so easily? Xiaohua's mind entered the space. Inside the space, Little Silver had a big belly, as if it had just eaten its fill, and was casually rolling around in the air. However, when Xiaohua noticed it, Little Silver nimbly stopped, and a pair of sparkling mouse eyes spun around, as if it was looking for traces of Xiaohua within the light range. Mother. Little Yellow was also flying in the air, calling very affectionately. It had swallowed Kan Mingwei's primordial spirit and its injuries had mostly healed. It looked very energetic. Mother is fighting with someone else. There's a strange little thing that Mother doesn't know how to deal with. Can you help Mother take a look? If there's no way, then hurry back. There's a way. Xiaohua hesitated. This strange insect's attack method was very similar to his, so he couldn't help but feel greedy. There's a way. Don't kill it first, subdue it first. Fighting? Hearing this, Little Yellow's eyes lit up and it said, Boy and Little Black often fought before. Little Black wasn't a match for the boy at all. That's good. Be careful, this thing isn't Little Black. It's very powerful. Hearing that Little Yellow had fought with some Little Black, Xiaohua was slightly relieved. Little Silver, let's go and fight with Mother. I'll show you how powerful Mother is. Little Silver cheerfully flew onto Little Yellow's back, without the slightest hint of being as timid as a mouse. Remember, Little Yellow, if you can't beat it, hurry back. Xiaohua brought Little Yellow and Little Silver out of the space. Before flying away, he still reminded Little Yellow. Little Yellow had been stifled for a long time. Its little body flew up and down in the air, very eager to give it a try. When Xiaohua let them out of the light shield, the long rope actually didn't attack Little Yellow. Outside the light barrier, the strange insect was still attacking the light barrier. The more the strange insect attacked, the more the number of black dots increased. Many of them overlapped. The light barrier was about the size of a palm and it was extremely dim. It was likely that the light barrier would be broken in a short while. The middle-aged cultivator urged his magic power to deal with the spirit crow fire net while controlling the long rope. At this moment, seeing the sudden appearance of little Martin and the spirit-seeking mouse, he was also slightly surprised. Then he smiled and said, "You little brat, you actually also have a spirit storage pouch. Serves me right for being lucky." It was as if this little Martin, the spirit-seeking mouse, and the spirit storage pouch that he hadn't seen yet were already his. But when he saw little Martin and the treasure-seeking mouse clearly, he was shocked again. "Your spirit pet? What is it? Moreover, you even used some treasure-seeking mouse to make up the numbers? Ignorant old man, how could you know about this young master's spirit pet?" Xiaohua pointed and scolded, "If you know what's good for you, then run away right now. This young master can spare your life. Otherwise, when this young master takes care of this ugly thing, I'll wring your head." Ah! That middle-aged cultivator seemed to have seen an extremely laughable thing in the world. If it weren't for the fact that he had to urge his magic power, he would practically be laughing until he bent over. "Just now, I was still afraid that you would escape from the illusion. You're good, you're actually afraid that I would escape. Don't worry, if I don't kill you in the illusion, I absolutely won't go out." That middle-aged cultivator seemed to have also let go, and he actually told Xiaohua his plan. Xiaohua smiled and said, "What? Do you also want this young master to say the same thing? Dream on. If this young master sees that something is wrong, then I'll immediately escape." That middle-aged cultivator's face turned cold, and he muttered an incantation. That strange insect left and turned its head, charging straight towards little Huang. "Be careful," Xiaohua warned in his heart for no reason. "Don't worry, mother, this thing is still very tender." "Very tender?" Xiaohua was stunned. He didn't expect that little Huang would actually say such words. It seemed, this little Huang had somewhat grown up. However, Xiaohua didn't have time to think about it, and he looked at little Huang with great concern. He saw that the strange insect emitting black gas flew in front of little Huang, and a pair of sharp antennae pierced straight towards little Huang's abdomen. However, little Huang swung its large tail and very nimbly dodged. Moreover, at the same time, its left claw slightly clawed, and with a light ripping sound, a small hole was immediately torn open in the strange insect's hard as stone shell. The strange insect was in so much pain that it curled into a small ball in midair, and its entire body was trembling. That middle-aged cultivator was stunned, and his expression changed rapidly. He muttered an incantation even more quickly, and after a while, that strange insect slowly stretched its body, and wriggled towards the middle-aged cultivator. How could little Huang let it go? Its yellow figure flashed and it actually chased after it. The middle-aged cultivator was very anxious, and he formed an incantation with his hands. Little Huang hurriedly dodged, and taking advantage of this gap, the strange insect flew back to the middle-aged cultivator's side. "Go, attack that person's light barrier." Xiaohua was overjoyed when he saw that little Huang was so clever, and he ordered, "That's right, have little Silver come over and help me deal with this long snake." Sure enough, little Silver obediently flew to Xiaohua's side, and chased after the long rope outside, biting it from time to time. Little Huang flew to the middle-aged cultivator's side, and while dodging the spell attack, it stretched out its sharp claws and slashed at the middle-aged cultivator's defensive yellow talisman. Just as Xiaohua expected, little Huang's attack was very powerful. After just a few slashes, the middle-aged cultivator's light barrier began to sway, and the defensive yellow talisman was about to be broken. The middle-aged cultivator's expression changed greatly, and he clenched his teeth, spitting a mouthful of blood on the dispirited strange insect beside him. The strange insect's body flashed with blood, and it immediately became spirited. The black gas around its body disappeared, and it shook its head and wagged its tail as it flew back to little Huang. After the middle-aged cultivator used the strange insect to temporarily lure little Huang away, he raised his eyes to look at Xiaohua and couldn't help but be even more shocked. He saw that the spirit-seeking mouse was biting the middle of the long rope, and its entire small body was flying along with the long rope. The long rope was fine now, but if it was bitten for a long time, there would definitely be a problem. He then looked at his azurewood formation and Xiaohua's spirit crow fire net. They were in a stalemate, evenly matched. If he didn't have any more tricks up his sleeve, he was afraid, that this little cultivator he looked down on would really reverse the situation. Thinking of this, the middle-aged cultivator fiercely clenched his teeth, narrowed his eyes slightly, and slapped his hand, taking out another item from the storage bag. Chapter 16-19. It was a black and unremarkable square object. The Changbai sect cultivator carefully took it out and gently held it in one hand. He used his other hand to form a seal and hammered it down on his chest. Poof! He spat out a mouthful of blood onto the small object. There was a soft buzzing sound, as if there were tens of thousands of flying insects flapping their wings. A layer of bronze light gradually appeared on the small square object. Then the middle-aged cultivator hammered his chest a few more times. A total of 6 mouthfuls of blood landed on the small object. The wung-wung sound became louder and louder. Moreover, as the sound became louder, the small object also became bigger and the bronze light on it gradually became brighter. Needless to say, this was definitely a very powerful magic tool of the middle-aged cultivator. Xiaohua's face showed a rare seriousness. Soon after, the square object that was about 1 foot in radius revealed its original appearance. It was a tattered seal. Above the seal was a beast's head. However, it was now extremely tattered. Only a small part of it remained on the seal. The outline of the beast could be vaguely seen. The middle-aged cultivator raised the seal with both hands and threw it into the air. He formed a seal and poured all of his magic power into the seal. Wung wung wung. The light on the seal slightly swelled and in the blink of an eye, the middle-aged cultivator's magic power was swept clean. With magic power, the seal more than doubled in size. At this time, countless amounts of heaven and earth spirit energy gathered around the seal and were all absorbed into the seal. Gusts of wind formed around the seal. Magic tool? Even Xiaohua, who didn't have much experience, could sense that something was wrong at this time. As the heaven and earth spiritual qi was absorbed, the seal was constantly expanding, and the brilliance was constantly flickering. Now it was already 1 zhang wide. And it was still expanding. How could a magic tool have this kind of power? Run! Xiaohua was shocked. He didn't hesitate to take out the magic card and urge it with his magic power. He wanted to teleport out of the illusory formation. However, when he poured his magic power into the magic card only flickered slightly before it was annihilated. What's going on? Xiaohua stared blankly. When he used his Buddhist awareness to scan the area, his eyes immediately cracked. He saw that the spiritual energy of heaven and earth within the entire illusory array was disrupted by the seals. The illusory array itself was also restrained by the seals. Around Xiaohua, within a radius of several hundred feet, all of the illusory realms were shattered. Now, everything had turned into bright green energy. This is the power of a magic tool. Xiaohua sighed. When he looked at the seal again, it had expanded to nearly 10 zhang in radius, like a small mountain standing majestically in the air. I still have to run. Xiaohua made a prompt decision and used the hibernating thunder escape to fly away from this dangerous place. At this moment, the middle-aged cultivator pointed with his finger. The seal that was like a small mountain rose slightly and smashed toward Xiaohua. The middle-aged cultivator also collapsed in the air. Just as Xiaohua flew out about 2 feet, the bottom of the seal covered Xiaohua. A kind of valiant imprisoning force came from the seal, firmly suppressing Xiaohua. In an instant, the true energy around Xiaohua's body condensed, and only a trace of magic power supporting the flight technique could be mobilized, barely able to stand in midair. The seal's power was so valiant. Not only did the dust above Xiaohua's head lose its brilliance and fall to the air, even the long rope like a flying snake was also blown away by the wind. The seeking spirit mouse was so scared that it trembled and barely landed on Xiaohua's shoulder. What should I do? Seeing the seal carry a boundless aura and drive the surrounding heaven and earth spirit energy to swarm over, Xiaohua looked at the seal that was missing 3 corners and had countless cracks at the bottom. He bitterly thought of a countermeasure. What countermeasure could there be? The mountain-like seal instantly smashed toward Xiaohua's head. Go die! Xiaohua shouted loudly. He reached out and took out the 2 demonic hammers he just obtained from the space. With one in each hand, he gathered all the strength in his body and as if he was raising fire to burn the sky, he desperately smashed them toward the seal in the air. Clang! A sound that resounded throughout the entire world came from Xiaohua's demonic hammer. The mountain-like seal was actually stopped by Xiaohua's demonic hammer. However, it was only stopped for a moment before the seal smashed down again like a hot knife through butter. Yeah. Xiaohua roared loudly. His eyes were wide open and the veins on his arms bulged. He used all the strength in his body to resist the seal. Slowly, the seal was actually showing signs of stopping. No. No way, right? The middle-aged cultivator who was barely sitting in the air had forgotten to take the medicinal pill in his hand. He was dumbstruck as he watched the mountain-like seal gradually stop. Just like before, the seal slowed down a bit and then gradually accelerated, pressing down on Xiaohua. Roar, seeing that Xiaohua was about to be pressed into the blue light of the illusion array, a dragon roar that also resounded through the entire heaven and earth came from Xiaohua's mouth. The dragon transformation art that he had been cultivating all this time showed its might at this moment. The meridians in Xiaohua's body slightly trembled, as if a sleeping dragon was awakened. The dragon slightly stretched its body and the true qi in his meridians could immediately circulate. It was also this moment of true qi circulation that Xiaohua immediately used this opportunity to activate his magic power and use the hibernating thunder escape to escape from the seal. The seal lost track of Xiaohua and slightly changed its direction. It still wanted to cover Xiaohua, but the seal's momentum was not over yet. It did not have time to flip over. Xiaohua did not hesitate. He activated his magic power and flew toward the middle-aged cultivator who had taken the medicinal pill and was in a hurry to take out a magic tablet to escape. The middle-aged cultivator had just recovered a bit of his magic power when he saw Xiaohua escape from the seal. He hurriedly took out a magic tablet and wanted to activate his magic power to escape. He had already thrown the bold words he had just said to the back of his mind. Naturally, he was the same as Xiaohua before. He also had no way to escape from the illusion array. Fellow Taoist Xiao. The middle-aged cultivator's previously calm expression had already disappeared. He quickly stood up and said in panic, "You and I are cultivator disciples. What grievances do we have?" But as he spoke, his eyes were still looking at the seal behind Xiaohua from time to time that was gradually turning. Go die. How could Xiaohua listen to his nonsense? He flew in front of the middle-aged cultivator and waved his left hand. The huge devil hammer was raised and ruthlessly smashed towards the middle-aged cultivator's chest. Seeing that the seal had already flipped over, the middle-aged cultivator's face flashed with a trace of joy. He hurriedly activated the remaining magic power in his body and poured it into the defensive yellow talisman. He strove to resist Xiaohua's attack before the seal arrived. Kacha! Xiaohua's devil hammer hit the middle-aged cultivator's chest. A burst of brilliance flashed and the defensive yellow talisman was smashed like paper. An incomparably huge force attacked the middle-aged cultivator's chest. Ah! A wave of fear that he had never experienced before suddenly rose from the heart of the middle-aged cultivator, a kind of enlightenment that he had never thought would happen before his death. The middle-aged cultivator's meager true qi in his meridians condensed at the same time. Unexpectedly, there were signs of foundation establishment. Fellow Taoist Xiao, spare my life. The middle-aged cultivator was ecstatic and shouted. However, Xiaohua's devil hammer did not hesitate at all. It struck the middle-aged cultivator's chest like a white steed flashing through a crack. The devil hammer smashed into the middle-aged cultivator's chest. His entire chest caved in. Seeing that his lifelong dream was about to come true and being so cruelly torn apart by Xiaohua, the middle-aged cultivator's eyes turned ashen. He could only say one word before his vision turned black. Blood spurted out of his mouth and he fell from the sky. Just as the middle-aged cultivator fell, the entire sky of the illusion array immediately turned blood red. Humph, this young master knows you've reached foundation establishment. But, so what? Xiaohua waved his hand and stored the devil hammer into his space. He sneered and said, daring to provoke this young master, then this young master will kill foundation establishment cultivators like you. At this time the seal had already flipped over. The sealing power that had just been released was retracted because of the middle-aged cultivator's fall. At the same time, the seal also gradually shrunk and returned to its original small size. Xiaohua looked at the seal greedily and smacked his lips. He thought to himself, how can the fragments of other people's magic treasures be so powerful? This young master, forget it. If it was somewhere else, wouldn't this thing have changed its surname to Xiao? It can't be helped, it can't be helped. Mother? At this time, Goldie's concerned voice came from the sky. Oh, Goldie, you're not injured, are you? When the seal was released, Goldie had already sensed it and had already flown high into the sky. That strange insect also chased after it, so Goldie wasn't injured at all. This is what Mother wanted. Boy didn't want its life. Goldie's sharp claws were holding the strange insect. At this time, the strange insect had shrunk a lot and was drooping weakly. Great! Goldie reached out and took down Little Silver, who was lying on his shoulder. Little Silver's tail naturally wrapped around Xiaohua's pinky finger. Goldie, you've worked hard. Go back and rest first. Xiaohua sent Goldie, Little Silver, and the strange insect into his space. He also gave Little Silver a lot of spirit herbs. Then, with a wave of his hand, he put away the fire crow net and flew down to collect the floating dust. Because the seal had returned to its original state, the illusion array that had been disturbed by the seal was also gradually recovering. The green chi slowly returned to its original illusion. Xiaohua didn't know when he would be able to leave the illusion array, so he could only sit cross-legged in the air. He took a few medicinal pills and closed his eyes to regulate his breathing. The battle just now was really dangerous. Xiaohua had also used up a lot of true chi. After an unknown amount of time, a beam of light shot out from the blood-red horizon and covered the middle-aged cultivator's corpse. Xiaohua knew that the illusion array had returned to normal. He took out a magic tablet and urged his magic power. Outside Xiaohua's mud-pill palace, another Buddha light appeared. It was just that the color of this Buddha light was somewhat different from before. Chapter 16:20. When Xiaohua's figure came out of the array, he immediately heard a voice. He's out, junior brother Xiao is out. He's still alive? This was Wang Yunzhao's shocked voice. Quick, look where he's hurt. Even though he came out first, he's still alive. That's better than anything else. Needless to say, this was Zhen Yu's voice. Xiaohua landed on the ground. He could clearly see that the dozen or so disciples in front of him were all in a sorry state. Some of their robes were even torn. But they all stared at Xiaohua with fervent gazes. Most of them were concerned. Looking at the dozen or so disciples, there were also a few unrelated ones. Their faces were filled with disdain and a hint of a sneer, but they were all looking at him proudly. Changbai sect disciples? Xiaohua instantly understood. Then a sneer appeared on his face. Senior brothers. Just as Xiaohua opened his mouth to speak, the illusory array behind him suddenly flashed with a blood-red brilliance. With a bang, the middle-aged cultivator's corpse, as well as his scattered magic tools and other items, were all thrown out by the illusory array. Ah? Seeing the blood-red color of the array, everyone knew that someone had died inside. But they didn't care why the blood-red color came out so slowly. Why did Xiaohua come out first? Their eyes were filled with disbelief as they stared at Xiaohua's face. Yes, of course it was inconceivable. That was a late-stage 12th Qi refinement cultivator, 2 levels higher than Xiaohua. If Xiaohua had escaped, they would have understood. But Xiaohua and this Changbai sect disciple had fought for so long. This was the final battle of the entire square. None of the Imperial Thunder sect disciples had expected this outcome. Even the Changbai sect disciples hadn't expected this. Senior brother Fan. The people who'd mocked Xiaohua earlier were now grief-stricken. They hurried forward and shouted. When their divine senses swept over, they saw that their so-called senior martial brother Fan was already dead, without the slightest trace of life. Their eyes were filled with resentment as they glared at Xiaohua. Their movements were nimble. Some lifted up senior martial brother Fan's corpse, while others picked up their artifacts and storage bags, preparing to leave. Wait. Xiaohua said coldly. What? This junior brother. Do you have anything else to say? The disciple who was carrying the corpse replied coldly, Do you want to make an appointment with I? Which cultivator I want to fight with? That's the Taiching sect's arrangement. I can't be bothered with it. What advice does junior brother have for me? Do you still need to say it? Xiaohua's face revealed a very cute smile. He pointed at the middle-aged cultivator's storage pouch and said, The things inside this storage pouch, besides the jade slips and magic tools, everything else seems to already belong to I, right? You shamelessly took away I's things. Can I say something? This. The disciple holding the bag of holding blushed. He only wanted to pack his things and thought that Xiaohua had already taken the bag of holding. Now that he heard Xiaohua say this, it seems that the disciples of the Changbai sect were really stingy. Here you go. The disciple threw the bag of holding over and said impatiently, Take it yourself. Don't. Xiaohua quickly waved his hand, I don't know what to take and what not to take. Let the Taiching sect's senior brother decide. The battle between Xiaohua and the cultivator surnamed Fan had dragged on for the longest time. Naturally, there were Taiching sect disciples waiting outside the illusion formation. However, the thunder-controlling sect and the Tai sect seemed to be at odds with each other, so they couldn't interfere. They simply watched from the side without saying anything. When they heard Xiaohua's words, an early 12th layer qi condensation disciple walked over and took the storage pouch from the Changbai sect disciple. Then he looked at Xiaohua and then at the Changbai sect disciples. He reached into his bag of holding and took out several jade slips. He gave them to the Changbai sect disciples and then whispered to a disciple next to him. That disciple quickly left and then said to the Changbai sect disciples, "Other than these jade slips, this bag of holding is filled with spirit stones and pills. It's not convenient for me to take them out for others to see, so I'll have to ask the Changbai sect disciples to come take a look." "I'll do it," the disciple with the storage bag volunteered. However, when he poked his head out to take a look, he involuntarily sucked in a breath of cold air as a strange expression appeared on his face. "How is it? The bag of holding is what I said, right?" the Taiching sect disciple asked. "It is, but..." the Changbai sect disciple stammered. "But, there seems to be something wrong with the pills. Please, what's the matter?" A voice came from afar. Everyone looked up and saw that it was the golden core cultivator Renju. "Yes, Senior Master knows. The contents of this bag of holding are a bit strange. I don't dare to act rashly. Senior Master, please take a look," the Taiching sect disciple said and handed over the bag of holding. At this point, everyone understood that although they didn't know what was inside the bag of holding, if it wasn't spirit stones then it was pills. There was definitely something out of the ordinary. Renju frowned and didn't open the bag of holding. "Go get fellow Taoist Liao from the Changbai sect." "I've already sent someone," the Taiching sect disciple whispered. "Good." Not long after, Liao Zhouquan from the Changbai sect walked over and saluted Renju. "May I know what fellow Taoist Renju wants?" Renju waved the bag of holding in his hand and said, "Your Changbai sect disciple fought with the Imperial Thunder sect disciple to the death. According to the rules of the Feather Immortal Gathering, everything in this bag of holding, except for the jade slips and magic weapons, belongs to the Imperial Thunder sect disciple. I want you to be a witness." "Which disciple?" Liao Zhouquan turned around and looked. When his gaze landed on the middle-aged cultivator's corpse, he was slightly stunned. It seemed that it was beyond his expectations. His face was filled with bitterness. Which Imperial Thunder sect disciple is so powerful? He actually defeated a famous expert of the Changbai sect? Liao Zhouquan turned to look at the peak of the 12th level Qi Refinement Realm disciples. "I was untalented. I was lucky." Xiaohua saluted with his hands folded. "You?" Liao Zhouquan's face flashed with surprise, but it disappeared in a flash. "What's your name?" "I's name is Xiaohua." Xiaohua answered without hesitation. Liao Zhouquan replied and turned to Renju. "Since my Changbai sect disciple has lost, this thing naturally belongs to Xiaohua. Fellow Taoist Renju, why did you ask I to come over?" "Okay." Renju nodded and handed the bag of holding over. "Fellow Taoist Liao, please take a look. I will give it to Xiaohua right now." Liao Zhouquan took it casually, but when he opened it he was stunned. He turned to look at the Changbai sect disciples behind him, and then at the middle-aged cultivator's corpse in their hands. He opened his mouth but didn't say anything. "How is it? Fellow Taoist Liao, are you sure? There are only pills and spirit stones inside, right?" Renju reached out his hand and asked. Yes. Liao Zhouquan slowly handed the bag of holding over as if he was reluctant to part with it. "Okay, since fellow Taoist Liao has confirmed, this bag of holding belongs to Xiaohua of the Imperial Thunder sect." Renju took the bag of holding. She didn't want to look at it, but when she saw Liao Zhouquan in a daze and her patrolling disciples didn't dare to look at it, she also glanced at it. Renju was stunned. Looking at Liao Zhouquan's expression, she sighed and handed it to Xiaohua. "This is the bag of holding. It's yours now." "But..." Renju wanted to say something but stopped. She extended her hand to Xiaohua and didn't take it back immediately. Seeing everyone's reaction, how could Xiaohua not know that there was something good in this bag of holding? Seeing Renju hand over the bag of holding, Xiaohua's first reaction was to refuse. But thinking about it, this middle-aged cultivator was the same as Chen Diheng of the Heavenly Thunder Palace. They both had magic treasures and they were offensive magic treasures. This person's identity in the Changbai sect must be very high. Since he had already killed him, he had already formed a grudge with a senior of the Changbai sect. What difference did it make whether he took the bag of holding or not? If that was the case, he might as well take it. Therefore Xiaohua thought for a moment and took the bag of holding without hesitation. He cupped his hands and said, "Thank you, Senior, for upholding justice." Rinzhu looked at her empty hand and a helpless smile appeared on her face. She nodded and said, "No need to thank me, no need to thank me. Take care of yourself." Then she raised her voice and said, "Disciples, please get ready. The last round of the competition today is about to begin. You all need to be prepared. Let's go." Liao Zhouquan waved his hand and led the disciples back to the pavilion of the Changbai sect. After Liao Zhouquan and the others left, Xiaohua pretended to casually open the bag of holding. Just as his divine sense swept through it, he was stunned on the spot. Even though he had already made sufficient mental preparations, but he was still stunned by the things in the bag of holding. And that greedy little heart of his, ting ting ting, was beating wildly. Damn it. Xiaohua was stunned for a moment and couldn't help but take a deep breath. Just as he was about to exclaim, he saw the curious gazes of the other disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect. He grinned, his white teeth shining brighter in the twilight. "It's just some top-grade spirit stones. Look at how nervous they are." After saying that, he put the bag of holding even more casually in his arms. Little junior brother is very lucky," Qian Diheng said with a smile. "In one battle you won both the person and the money." Seeing that Qian Diheng's expression wasn't good, Xiaohua didn't say anything. He smiled and said, "Senior brother Qian, didn't you also pass safely? This little brother was just lucky." Lucky. Qian Diheng's expression was indescribable. He turned to the disciples beside him and said with a bitter smile, "You're not just lucky." Seeing that Qian Diheng was trying to change the topic, Xiaohua asked, "What? Senior brother Qian, do you have something to say?" "Junior brother Xiao, you came out late so you don't know. In the third round of the competition, our Imperial Thunder sect suffered a lot," Li Xiaoxiao said. Chapter 16:21. Okay, let's not talk too much. The fourth round is about to begin. Let's wait until the fourth round is over. Zhenyu didn't speak at all. He also felt that there was something strange about the bag of holding, but it was Xiaohua's and even Rinzhu didn't say anything, so he didn't want to look at it. Seeing the disciples leave, he said, "If you meet a Changbai sect disciple in the fourth round, don't care about the rules. Take out your most powerful treasures and fight. They attacked us first. Martial Uncle Zhen has already asked Senior Deming for an explanation. We have to take back some of our disadvantage in the fourth round." Hearing that, Xiaohua understood. After all, the Taibai sect's cultivator surnamed Fan had used a powerful magic artifact to trap him the moment they met. He had even said that taking his life would be the easiest way. Presumably, the other Taibai sect disciples also had similar plans. If the Imperial Thunder sect disciples weren't on guard, there would definitely be some casualties. Who knew which disciple would be unlucky? He looked at Sun Shu, Li Xiaoxiao and Wang Yunxiao. Oh, and Qian Diheng. That guy has a magic artifact, so he should be fine. As for the others? Where are Minggu and Yuanbo? Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat, and he hurriedly sent a voice transmission to Wang Yunxiao. Fortunately, according to Wang Yunxiao, Minggu and Yuanbo were both seriously injured and almost died. Fortunately, they escaped from the illusion array just after the time limit, and were now recuperating in the pavilion. The competition in the future should have nothing to do with them. Ah, good. Xiaohua nodded at Wang Yunxiao. Xiaohua didn't have a good impression of the two, but they were still from the same sect. It was better to see them alive than dead. At this moment, the illusory array beside Xiaohua shone brightly again. 2 rays of light flew out and flew towards 2 different disciples. "Senior Li, why isn't there any light on your spell plate?" Xiaohua looked at his own spell plate and then at Li Xiaoxiao's spell plate. "Yeah, what's going on?" Li Xiaoxiao was a bit anxious. I didn't give up." "What are you panicking for?" Zhenyu scolded. "You won this round, go back and rest." But Li Xiaoxiao didn't seem to understand. The Changbai sect already has 2 disciples who have withdrawn from the competition. Naturally, there will be 2 people who will have a bye. Didn't the Celestial Music sect also have a bye in the last round? Zhenyu snorted and said, "Our Imperial Thunder sect had 2 disciples withdraw in the 3rd round. The other sects will also have 2 disciples without a fight. This situation will only increase in the next few days." "Yes, I understand." Li Xiaoxiao cupped her hands and turned around to return to the pavilion. She was very tired today and had consumed a lot of her true qi. Taking advantage of this opportunity, she naturally had to rest early and replenish her strength and magic power. Xiaohua, how are you? Zhen Yu said with concern. You're a disciple in the early stage of the 12th layer of the aura refining realm. You're not in a hurry to build your foundation and you've just achieved it. Why don't you withdraw from the competition? Great. Xiaohua was overjoyed and was about to clap his hands in cheer, but just as the words left his mouth, he shook his head with a crying face. Forget it, disciple will participate in a few more matches. If I withdraw on the first day and return to the Imperial Thunder sect, Master will definitely peel disciple's skin. Of course, when he thought of Wu Hai getting angry at the slightest thing, Xiaohua was also a bit scared. Then, why don't you rest for a while? Zhen Yu seemed to know Wu Hai's temper and didn't try to persuade him. Yes, disciple understands. Xiaohua nodded. In fact, he had been resting for a long time in the illusion array and had already recovered his strength and magic power. Because the illusion array was destroyed by the magic treasure, he had to wait for it to slowly recover for a long time, causing him to be the last one to come out. Fellow Taoist? Why haven't you entered the array yet? If you wait any longer, you will be considered to have forfeited. Xiaohua had just sat down for a while when a Taiching sect disciple on duty came over and reminded him. I understand, thank you senior martial brother. Xiaohua got up. The illusion array he was assigned to this time was a bit far. After walking for a while, he saw the illusion array connected to the magic tablet. At this time, there was a tall and sturdy cultivator in front of the illusion array. This cultivator had a fierce face and a beard on his face. He was anxiously looking left and right. When he saw Xiaohua slowly walking over, his eyes flashed with a trace of astonishment and a trace of panic. Xiaohua looked at this cultivator strangely. He didn't have any magic tablet on him that was connected to the illusion array. In other words, he wasn't his opponent in the 4th round. Oh, could it be the senior martial brother of the disciple in the array? Xiaohua understood and slightly nodded at that cultivator. Seeing that Xiaohua actually took the initiative to nod at him, that cultivator's face showed ecstasy. He cupped his hands and said, Junior martial brother Xiao, I am Zhong Tianqing of Xianli sect. You know my name? Xiaohua was surprised. Fellow Taoist Xiao was the last one to come out. You were very impressive. I saw you from afar. Zhong Tianqing quickly explained. Oh. Xiaohua realized. Then his figure moved and was about to enter the illusion array. Zhong Tianqing quickly transmitted his voice, Junior martial brother Xiao, please show mercy. I will definitely thank you. Xiaohua flew in the air and slightly nodded at Zhong Tianqing. Zhong Tianqing's heart slightly relaxed. And not only did Zhong Tianqing's heart relax, Xiaohua's heart also relaxed. Since Zhong Tianqing wanted to plead for his junior martial brother, presumably that guy's cultivation level wasn't high. What was there for him to be afraid of? However, when Xiaohua flew into the illusion array and saw his opponent in the 4th round, he couldn't help but be stunned. That cultivator definitely wasn't an early or middle 12th layer disciple like he thought. It was a genuine late 12th layer disciple. Moreover, he even knew this person. Wasn't it Zhong Xiaohan of Xianli sect? Zhong Xiaohan was obviously also stunned. Soon after, a trace of joy flashed across her face. But after that joy, it immediately turned into incomparable fear. Naturally, she must have also seen the miserable state of the middle-aged cultivator from Changbai sect being killed by Xiaohua. An early 12th layer disciple spent a lot of time to kill a late 12th layer disciple. This absolutely couldn't be underestimated. Xianli sect and Changbai sect were both in Meng country. Naturally, they knew that middle-aged cultivator and also knew about that cultivator's background. Zhong Xiaohan asked herself. In her heart, she didn't have the confidence to win against that Changbai sect disciple. Then how could she win against Xiaohua? Zhong Xiaohan admittedly wanted to build her foundation, but seeing that even the Changbai sect disciple with a magic weapon wasn't Xiaohua's opponent, she could only be killed by Xiaohua. How could she have a chance to build her foundation? I only hope I can last for half an incense stick's time. Zhong Xiaohan muttered in her heart. She quickly bowed and smiled apologetically. I Xianli sect's Zhong Xiaohan greets fellow Taoist Xiao. Xiaohua just wanted to smile and greet Zhong Xiaohan, but his heart suddenly moved. He put away his smile and said coldly, We already met yesterday. No need to be so polite. Zhong Xiaohan's heart chilled. She gritted her teeth and said in a low voice, I didn't know fellow Taoist Xiao had such magical power. I offended you yesterday. Yesterday is yesterday. Today is today. No need to say anything more. Xiaohua waved his hand and clapped his hand. He took out the white dust and threw it in the air, saying, Today is a competition. Why do you and I have to say anything more? Fellow Taoist Xiao, I admit that I'm not fellow Taoist's opponent. I am willing to give you the things in my storage bag. I only hope fellow Taoist can casually exchange a few moves with I. If fellow Taoist can make me pass the time limit of half an incense stick's time, I will immediately withdraw from the competition. Zhong Xiaohan said pitifully, just like what Xiaohua said to others before. Humph, Xiaohua still snorted coldly. Previously when you fought with my Imperial Thunder Sect disciple, did you show mercy? This. Zhong Xiaohan was at a loss for words. Who would show mercy in this competition of the Feather Immortal Assembly? When Zhong Xiaohan finished speaking, Xiaohua pointed his finger. The white dust emitted an earthy yellow brilliance. That brilliance took the shape of a round ball and smashed towards Zhong Xiaohan. Zhong Xiaohan smiled bitterly and clenched her teeth. She didn't say anything else. She waved her hand and a transparent icicle-like magic tool appeared in her hand. When she activated her magic power, palm-sized snowflakes with 6 petals flew out from the magic tool and blocked the earthy yellow balls. As soon as the snowflakes appeared, the surrounding temperature suddenly dropped. The spinning snowflakes absorbed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and became even sharper. 2 snowflakes attacked the same round ball from different directions and easily cut through the earthy yellow ball. The brilliance on the round ball flickered slightly and was annihilated. Good. Xiaohua sneered and the spell in his hand changed again. A brilliant light soared into the sky from the speck of dust. That brilliance was divided into granules, like a wave or a storm in the desert, and they whistled as they charged towards Zhong Xiaohan. Seeing the power of the white dust, Zhong Xiaohan's pale face became even paler. She activated the magic power in her hand and struck a magic seal on her body. A milky white brilliance flashed on Zhong Xiaohan's body. A light shield was emitted from her Taoist robe and firmly protected Zhong Xiaohan. Oh, this Taoist robe is also a magic tool? Xiaohua was slightly stunned, but his hands didn't slow down. He increased his magic power and an unending stream of brilliance from the white dust rushed towards Zhong Xiaohan. Pa 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 pa, a series of soft sounds like gravel hitting a sail or waves hitting the side of a ship rang out. The defensive light shield on Zhong Xiaohan's body continuously shook and its brilliance became somewhat dim. Zhong Xiaohan hurriedly activated her magic power and replenished the defensive light shield's magic power. Taking advantage of the fact that Xiaohua's second round of attacks hadn't arrived, she waved the magic tool in her hand again. A dozen snowflakes flew out and protected her. Explode! Zhong Xiaohan shouted in a low voice. Pa 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 pa, a dozen times in a row the snowflakes exploded one after another. The extremely cold spiritual energy in the snowflakes actually froze the earthy yellow brilliance around her. Immediately they turned into ice dregs and fell to the ground one after another. Good. Seeing this, Xiaohua clapped his hands and said, I'll let you experience Ai's methods. While speaking, Xiaohua took out a dozen fireball talismans and scattered them. He activated his Buddhist awareness and tightly surrounded Zhong Xiaohan from top to bottom. Rumble, rumble, rumble. A series of explosions rang out around Zhong Xiaohan. The impact of the fireball talismans exploding attacked Zhong Xiaohan's defense from all directions. The powerful waves of air rushed towards her and made her almost unable to stand steadily. Chapter 1622. Zhong Xiaohan's expression slightly changed. Without hesitation she took out dozens of frozen talismans and icicle talismans from her storage pouch and threw them into the air. Ka-cha-cha. Rumble. Ice and fire have been incompatible since ancient times. When the ice attribute talismans and the fire attribute talismans collided, they restrained each other. Immediately, a large amount of heaven and earth spiritual energy was annihilated. Ah! Xiaohua laughed loudly. You've really tested I. Xiaohua waved his hand and dozens of fireball talismans flew out. Zhong Xiaohan naturally didn't dare to be negligent. She took out icicle talismans again. However, after fighting like this for dozens of times, it gradually became clear who was superior. Not to mention that Xiaohua's fireball talismans seemed to be endless and he didn't need to worry about the number. However, the might of his top-grade fireball talismans and the marvelous power of his Buddhist sense made Zhong Xiaohan's frozen talismans unable to retaliate. Zhong Xiaohan had no choice but to wave her magic tool again and use large amounts of snowflakes to make up for the lack of frozen talismans. Even so, the defensive light barrier on Zhong Xiaohan's body began to gradually weaken. However, Zhong Xiaohan's heart also gradually relaxed. because the time of half an incense stick was almost up. She only needed to hold on for a while more and she would be able to retreat unscathed. At this moment, Xiaohua seemed to have seen through Zhong Xiaohan's thoughts. He waved his hand and dozens of fireball talismans shot out, more than twice as many as before. Fellow Taoist Xiao, why are you so ruthless? Zhong Xiaohan saw the exploding fireball talismans and couldn't help but shout in panic. However, she didn't hear Xiaohua's answer. Only the sound of fireball talismans could be heard in her ears. Forget it. Zhong Xiaohan sighed in her heart. Her left hand that wasn't holding a magic tool slapped again. This time she didn't take out frozen talismans. Instead she took out a foot-long palm leaf fan. A mouthful of blood sprayed onto the palm leaf fan. With a whoosh, a green brilliance flashed. Immediately, Zhong Xiaohan urged her magic power and poured it into the palm leaf fan. As her magic power poured in, the brilliance actually gradually converged until Zhong Xiaohan poured 40% of her magic power into the palm leaf fan. At this moment, the fireball talismans around Zhong Xiaohan had completely exploded, and a strong heat wave rushed towards the brilliance protecting her body. However, the brilliance protecting her body was already extremely thin, and it looked like it would break at any moment. Zhong Xiaohan lightly fanned the palm leaf fan in her hand, and a hurricane was born from the fan. The hurricane grew bigger and bigger, and in the blink of an eye, it actually blew away all the fireballs in the surroundings. Zhong Xiaohan's heart calmed down as she sneered at Xiaohua. Who would have thought that Xiaohua was standing less than 10 zhang away from Zhong Xiaohan and was also looking at her coldly? Something didn't seem right. Zhong Xiaohan's heart skipped a beat. At this moment, Zhong Xiaohan suddenly felt the defensive light barrier beneath her feet tremble violently. The light on her Taoist robe was annihilated. When she scanned with her divine sense, she saw a pitch-black black iron needle flying straight towards her feet, about to pierce into the soles of her feet. How could Zhong Xiaohan dare to let the black iron needle pierce through? While she rejoiced in her heart, she hurriedly urged her magic power to fan the palm leaf fan in her hand. Another hurricane was born, and it blew the black iron needle away. Woo! Before Zhong Xiaohan could even feel a trace of hope in her heart, another gust of wind came from above her head. It was as if an incomparably huge force was attacking her. Zhong Xiaohan didn't have time to raise her head. She only scanned with her divine sense and immediately, her eyes widened and her heart trembled. She saw Xiaohua standing in front of her, and a pitch-black iron rod had already struck her forehead. How did he fly in front of me? Oh, how is he so fast? I didn't feel anything at all. Zhong Xiaohan's heart was ice-cold. This pure-strength devil spear attack was precisely aimed at a cultivator's body. Its threatening and shocking power was far greater than any magic tool or magic treasure's attack on a cultivator's Tao heart. She felt the wind stirred up by the devil spear, as well as the chill of the devil spear itself, already close to the skin on her forehead, even causing goosebumps to rise on her skin. At this moment, Zhong Xiaohan had an incomparable insight into everything in her surroundings. She incomparably felt the closeness of death. At the same time, she incomparably experienced the changes in her own body. In an instant, a kind of understanding arose in Zhong Xiaohan's heart, a kind of indescribable understanding. Following this understanding, the true qi in Zhong Xiaohan's meridians started to liquefy. Foundation establishment. Foundation establishment. Zhong Xiaohan's heart was wild with joy. She had been at the peak of the 12th level of qi refining for a long time, and she had finally waited for this moment. However, Zhong Xiaohan immediately smiled bitterly. She was going to die soon. Foundation establishment. What was the use? But at this moment, Xiaohua's devil spear also stopped. It was tightly pressed against Zhong Xiaohan's forehead. He stopped and stared at Zhong Xiaohan. He smiled meaningfully and said, "What? Fellow Taoist Zhong? You still haven't reached foundation establishment? If you still haven't reached foundation establishment, I can't do anything about it." What? Zhong Xiaohan was dumbstruck. Xiaohua put away the devil spear and said with a smile, "Quickly take a foundation establishment pill, or use some spirit accumulation talisman. This is fellow Taoist Zhong's own hard work. It has nothing to do with I." At this moment, Zhong Xiaohan naturally understood. She didn't have time to thank him. She quickly took out a foundation establishment pill and stuffed it into her mouth. She closed her eyes and prepared to reach foundation establishment. Shua, from the horizon of the illusion array, a similar beam of light shot down. It covered Zhong Xiaohan and slowly brought her out of the illusion array. Another achievement. Xiaohua smiled. His figure flew up and also slowly came out of the illusion array. Within the Buddha Sarira, another exceptionally brilliant Buddha light was born. After coming out of the illusion array, sure enough, that cultivator called Zhong Tianqing wasn't at the side. Presumably, he was escorting Zhong Xiaohan back to Immortal Music Sect's pavilion. Let's go, let's go. Today's 4 rounds are over. I need to rest. Xiaohua clapped his hands and turned around to leave. Xiaohua. Not far away, Zhenyu shouted. You came out so early? What was the outcome? There was no outcome. That Immortal Music Sect's disciple suddenly reached Foundation Establishment, so I also came out. Xiaohua said with a smile. There's another Foundation Establishment cultivator today? Zhenyu was somewhat incredulous. I heard that in the previous Feather Immortal Assembly, it was already not bad if there was 1 Foundation Establishment cultivator per day. How come this Feather Immortal Assembly is only on the first day, and there are already 2 Foundation Establishment cultivators? Soon after, Zhenyu came to a realization. And both of them were fighting against you? Xiaohua scratched his head and said with a smile, I'm afraid my luck is good. I'm destined to enter the top 32. These senior brothers and disciples can't defeat me, so I can only let them reach Foundation Establishment. Maybe it's true. Zhenyu laughed but obviously didn't believe it. He said, then you should go back and rest. There are still 4 rounds tomorrow. Yes, I understand. Xiaohua bowed in salute and returned to the pavilion alone. The entire pavilion of the Imperial Thunder Sect was quiet. There wasn't any sound at all. Presumably, all the disciples were fighting to the death in the illusory formation, trying to find that slim chance of reaching Foundation Establishment. Xiaohua opened the restriction of his quiet room. Just as he was about to step in, he suddenly thought of something. Yuan Bo and Min Gu were eliminated first, so they must be seriously injured. Should he go and check on them? Xiaohua didn't want to see them at first, but after thinking about it, they all joined the Imperial Thunder Sect together, and Yuan Bo and the others had shown some intimacy before. Although he didn't know why they were so distant now, but they were seriously injured after all. From a moral point of view, it was better to take a look. Thinking about this, Xiaohua turned around and walked inside. Yuan Bo and Min Ji's rooms weren't together, and they were even quite far apart. However, when Xiaohua found Min Ji's quiet room, the door of the quiet room was wide open, and he heard Yuan Bo's hoarse voice from inside. There must be something wrong with that guy. Xiaohua frowned and increased the force of his foot. Who is it? The 2 people in the room immediately heard the sound. Min Gu was shocked and roared angrily. Little brother Xiaohua came to see senior brothers? Xiaohua stood at the door and looked at the 2 people inside with pale faces and greatly damaged vitality, and said with a smile. Xiaohua? Min Gu was surprised and glanced at Yuan Bo. How did you come out so quickly? This seems to have just passed the time limit? Aha, senior brothers, how are your injuries? Xiaohua avoided the question and didn't answer, walking in. Junior brother Xiao has good methods. You can actually last until the time limit, you really hid your strength well. Min Gu glanced at Xiaohua and sneered. Junior brother Min. Yuan Bo scolded. Junior brother Xiao is shrewd. How can the likes of us compare? Min Gu opened his mouth and then sighed, wanting to say something but hesitating. Little brother is also lucky to be able to turn misfortunes into blessings every time. Xiaohua said with a smile. Senior brothers, your cultivation is much deeper than little brothers. Maybe you were unlucky and met the experts of the Changbai sect, so you were defeated. Of course. Min Gu said loudly. I don't know what that Sun Shu did to make them chase him out of the illusion array. Also, he provoked the conflict between the Changbai sect and my Imperial Thunder sect. Our cultivation is not much worse than the Changbai sect disciples. Their sudden attack made us lose the initiative and could only barely resist. It's already not bad to be able to escape with our lives. Junior brother Xiao was inside. I'm afraid he would have died long ago. Yes. Xiaohua nodded slightly and wanted to leave. He stood up and said with a smile. Since you are injured, senior brothers should have a good rest. There are no more battles left, your hearts. At this time, a loud voice sounded from behind Xiaohua. Junior brother Min, you are wrong. How do you know junior brother Xiao's methods? Junior brother Xiao met an expert from the Changbai sect in the 3rd round. After a fierce fight, junior brother Xiao successfully killed that guy and really helped my Imperial Thunder sect vent our anger. Huh? Yuan Bo and Min Gu were very pale. They looked up at Wang Yun Xiao, who slowly walked into the room. Oh, senior brother Wang, you also came out so early? Xiao Hua cupped his hands and asked, "Can you sing loudly in the 4th round?" "I am far worse than you," Wang Yunxiao said with shame. "I barely made it through the 4th round and immediately escaped." Then he glanced at Yuan Bo and Minggu and said carelessly, "Junior brothers, you probably don't know. Junior brother Xiao won all 4 rounds today and got 16 points. He is ranked first in my Imperial Thunder sect." Chapter 1623. What? Yuan Bo's face was filled with embarrassment, and Minggu was even more shocked. Xiao Hua hurriedly waved his hand and corrected, "Senior brother Wang is wrong." Xiao Hua. Not waiting for Xiao Hua to finish speaking, Minggu stood up from the ground and said furiously, "This poor Taoist thought that you came to visit us out of goodwill. So you only came to see us as a joke. Get lost. Get lost." Hearing this, Xiao Hua's face turned ashen. "Junior brother Min. How can you say that?" A trace of anger appeared on Wang Yunxiao's face and he hurriedly scolded, "Junior brother Xiao has achieved great results, so we should naturally congratulate him. How can you be so narrow-minded?" "So what if I'm narrow-minded? I already withdrew from the Feather Immortal Assembly, so what? I just don't like this guy, so what?" Minggu pointed at Xiao Hua and said loudly. Yuan Bo's face was also ugly, but hearing this he hurriedly stepped forward and grabbed Minji's hand, saying angrily, "Minggu, what are you doing? Junior brother Xiao took time out of his busy schedule to visit us, and this is how you treat him? He came to visit us out of goodwill?" Minggu seemed to have lost control of his emotions. "This guy is just a loose cultivator, he's not even worthy of carrying my shoes." He used Xue Xue's ignorance and innocence to enter the Imperial Thunder sect, and after entering the Imperial Thunder sect, he threw Xue Xue aside and hooked up with Sun Shu. What? Isn't it because Sun Shu has an Aurus Core stage master? If a loose cultivator like him doesn't find a backer, how can he establish himself in the Imperial Thunder sect? How can he be worthy of Sun Shu? When the Spring Thunder Hall was selecting disciples, not a single teacher took a fancy to him, and only that tactless old man from the Myriad Thunder Valley took pity on him and took him in. What kind of place is the Myriad Thunder Valley? Just look at his senior brother and you'll know. He's just a petty person and now he's here to laugh at us. Shut up. Wang Yunxiao was furious and immediately stepped forward and said angrily, "Minggu, what are you saying?" Outside the quiet room, an extremely angry voice rang out. Xiao Hua's face was gloomy as he raised his head to look. It was Sun Shu whose face was flushed red. Yuan Bo saw that the situation was not good. He raised his arm and clamped Minji's head in front of his chest. He scolded with a smile, "You bastard, I just let you drink 2 mouthfuls of wine and you went crazy. If I knew this would happen, I would have let you rest." Then he turned to Xiao Hua and Sun Shu and said, "Junior brother Xiao, senior sister Sun, this guy was defeated by the Changbai sect disciples. Please don't blame him, please don't blame him." Xiao Hua coldly snorted, turned around and left. He originally had good intentions and walked a few more steps to take a look. Who would have thought that such a senseless thing would happen? Who said I was drunk? I didn't even take a sip of wine. Minggu struggled and cursed, "I want to let people see this guy's sanctimonious face." "You shut up." Wang Yunxiao shouted. Xiao Hua walked out of the quiet room and saw Sun Shu's shy eyes. Her eyes were watery as if she had been wronged. Facing Xiao Hua's direct gaze, her gaze was slightly slanted as if she did not dare to look Xiao Hua in the eye. Damn it, what kind of people are these? Xiao Hua was slightly angry in his heart. He walked back to his quiet room and opened the restriction. He wanted to close his eyes and meditate, but even after a long time he still couldn't calm down. Today, have I been in the limelight too much? I am only Qi Refinement Stage Initial Stage 12, but I actually obtained 16 points in a row. Truly dazzling. He Fangyuan and Zhong Xiaohan, these 2 disciples, directly entered Foundation Establishment, and these 3 points were actually given to I. This is something I never thought would happen. But, thinking about Zhong Tianxing's face full of concern and his words of entrustment, I was meddlesome, I only let her leave after the time limit. Why did I have to try? Xiao Hua was actually also curious. He remembered the matter of He Fangyuan entering Foundation Establishment in the first round. It was when he used the demonic spear to kill He Fangyuan that He Fangyuan suddenly gained enlightenment in the midst of life and death, thus stepping into Foundation Establishment. Thus he also wanted to give it a try in the battle with Zhong Xiaohan. He originally did not expect to succeed, But the reality was beyond his expectations. He really did let Zhong Xiaohan enter Foundation establishment. Although Xiaohua and Zhong Xiaohan had only met once, Xiaohua felt that Zhong Xiaohan was not bad, at least much stronger than his fellow disciple Mingo. Thus, he did not regret helping Zhong Xiaohan enter Foundation establishment. What he regretted now was that today's limelight was too much. Just as he was thinking, the quiet room's restriction shook, as if someone had come to visit. Who is it? Xiaohua frowned slightly. His mood was really bad now. He did not want to see anyone. When he opened the restriction, an unfamiliar voice came from outside the door. Xiaohua. Xiaohua. Hearing this, Xiaohua became angry and said coldly, "Who is so rude? Directly calling me by my name? Are you Xiaohua?" 3 late-stage 12th layer Qi refining disciples rushed into Xiaohua's quiet room, and the disciple with thick eyebrows and big eyes in the front shouted angrily. "Get out!" Xiaohua said coldly. "You are Xiaohua?" That disciple was also furious. "I have something to discuss with you. You dare to speak such arrogant words? Get out!" Xiaohua did not answer and said coldly, "If you don't leave, don't blame this young master for being impolite. You dare." That disciple's hand moved as if he was going to take something out of his storage bag. Senior Brother Lu, don't be anxious, don't be anxious." A handsome disciple behind him quickly said. "Hi, how can I not be anxious? This guy took my senior brother Fan's spirit pet, and he's still so arrogant. Even if he comes to the Tai Ching sect, I'm not afraid. I'll definitely ask him for an explanation." That disciple sneered at Xiaohua. Xiaohua's heart thumped, and he felt a burst of guilt, but he still rolled his eyes and sneered. "You really are powerless." Today this young master met disciples from the Celestial Music sect, Profound Heaven sect and Changbai sect. "Who are you? Even now you're still so stubborn?" That disciple's face was ashen, and compared to Xiaohua's previous expression, Xiaohua felt a bit relieved. "I am Lu Sishu of the Changbai sect. Quickly take out my senior brother Fan's spirit pet." "Fellow Taoist Xiao, I am Hai of the Changbai sect." Another disciple also cupped his hands. "Spirit pet? What spirit pet?" Xiaohua's face was blank. Lu Sishu took out the middle-aged cultivator's storage bag and said angrily, "Naturally it's my senior brother Fan's spirit pet? What else could it be?" Xiaohua looked at the storage bag and clenched his teeth. He shook his head and said, "I don't know what you're talking about. That damn senior brother Fan of yours never took out this thing. Who knows what kind of spirit pet he has?" You. Lu Sishu pointed his finger at Xiaohua's nose and said in a very exasperated manner. "What about me?" Xiaohua's face sank like water. "If you continue to be so rude, this young master will beat you up just like your senior brother Fan." This sentence was like a trigger and Lu Sishu instantly exploded. He jumped up and took out a small golden hammer. He laughed in extreme anger and said, "I want to see how much skill you have. Senior Brother Lu, Senior Brother Lu." Hai was shocked and said anxiously, "Didn't the Tai Ching sect disciple warn you? You must calm down, calm down." Tai Ching sect disciple? Xiaohua's heart turned and he snorted. "When this young master came out of the illusion formation, I didn't take anything. It was the Tai Ching sect disciple who gave this young master my spoils of war. If you have any problems, you can go find the Tai Ching sect disciple. This young master has no interest in being pretentious with you. This young master doesn't care about your spoils of war. This young master just wants to take back what you shouldn't have." Lu Sishu was still shouting. But Xiaohua saw that only the Changbai sect disciple came and the Tai Ching sect disciple on duty didn't follow. He couldn't help but feel emboldened and pointed his finger. "Scram, this young master won't say it a 4th time. If you don't leave, this young master won't be able to resist killing you." "You?" Lu Sishu said coldly, "You're not even fit to carry this young master's shoes." "Haha, I don't know what your damn senior brother Fan will think in the underworld." Xiaohua didn't get angry at all and said calmly, Come. Lu Sishu swung his golden hammer and 10,000 rays of golden light shot out. "Damn it, is he really serious?" Xiaohua was stunned. "Stop." A decisive voice came from outside the door. A slightly old cultivator appeared at the door. It was a middle foundation establishment cultivator. "Greetings, senior." Xiaohua took the opportunity to bow. The Changbai sect disciples also turned and bowed. "I am Mingqing of the Tai Ching sect. I'm the captain on duty today." The foundation establishment cultivator waved his hand and said, "I just patrolled this place. Why is it so noisy?" "Senior Mingqing." Xiao Hua hurriedly cupped his hands and said, "This disciple was meditating here." These unrelated cultivators barged in and almost caused I to go mad. "It's not like that." The Changbai sect disciple hurriedly explained and told Mingqing everything. They were looking for Xiao Hua to ask for the strange insect. "That god power centipede is my senior brother Fan's spirit pet. After the battle, the spirit storage pouch was empty. Senior, please tell me if it's not in Xiao Hua's hands, where else could it be?" Lu Xishu said angrily. "Funny funny." Xiao Hua clapped and said, "Did your senior brother Fan lose a dozen magic treasures as well? Do I have to compensate you too?" Xiao Hua clapped his hands and said, "I don't have any spirit storage pouch here, where would I put your god power centipede?" At this time, a Taiching sect disciple hurriedly came and whispered in Mingqing's ear. Mingqing frowned and said, "You better say it out loud so I don't have to talk too much." "Yes." The disciple replied, "Senior brothers, the Changbai sect just said a spirit pet was missing. I immediately checked the illusion and there was nothing inside. If the spirit pet isn't in the Changbai sect, then it can only be in the Imperial Thunder sect. But my Imperial Thunder sect doesn't have a single spirit storage pouch. Where would we raise a spirit pet?" Xiao Hua smiled. "Isn't there a video recording in the illusion? Did you check it?" Mingqing asked. "Video recording?" Mingqing's words were like a bolt from the blue to Xiao Hua. Chapter 1624. Just as Xiao Hua was trembling with fear, the Taiching sect disciple said, "Good, martial uncle Mingqing, someone used a magic treasure in the illusion realm. The illusion realm's illusion formation was disrupted by the magic treasure's power, and all of the recorded images were destroyed. Nothing can be seen at all." These words were like music to Xiao Hua's ears, and he was secretly delighted. However, he frowned and said, "Senior Mingqing, that's not good. My grievances can't be cleared. No, your sect must find a way to recover those records or else you can use magic treasures?" Mingqing didn't answer Xiao Hua's words, and he looked Xiao Hua up and down in shock. "It's not this senior brother Xiao, it's another Changbai sect disciple." The Taiching sect disciple hurriedly said, "And it's a fragment of a magic treasure." What? It was fine if Mingqing didn't listen, but when he heard it, he was even more shocked. He was even more shocked than when he heard that Xiao Hua could use magic treasures. After all, Xiao Hua was only an early-stage 12th Qi refinement disciple. Seeing Mingqing looking at him, Xiao Hua bowed with a bitter face and said, "Senior Mingqing, please make the decision." Mingqing smiled and said, "Since martial nephew Xiao doesn't have a storage bag, and the Imperial Thunder sect disciple doesn't have a storage bag, then the spirit pet that the Changbai sect disciple mentioned can't be on either of them. Besides, spirit pets aren't ordinary things, how can they be taken away so easily?" Martial uncle Mingqing is right. Xiao Hua was overjoyed. "I've never seen any spirit pets." Senior Mingqing. Yi hurriedly said, "But before senior brother Fan entered the illusion array, there was indeed a spirit pet in his storage bag. I saw it with my own eyes." "Then when you took senior brother Fan's body, did you check the storage bag? Did you find that the spirit pet disappeared?" Mingqing frowned. "I checked the storage bag, but this storage bag, it wasn't there." Yi looked at Lu Xishu, who was gnashing his teeth, and said in a low voice, "Yes, that's it. Since Xiao Hua didn't check the spirit storage pouch in front of him, the things inside the spirit storage pouch had nothing to do with him. This is the rule of the Feather Immortal Assembly. All of you should go back." Mingqing shook his head and said, "Since senior brother Liao Zhouquan didn't come, it means that he knows what to do. If you have any other ideas, let him come to I or senior brother Rinzhu." In front of a Foundation establishment cultivator, Lu Xishu, Hai, and the others didn't dare to say anything. After bowing, they left with their tails between their legs. Many thanks to martial uncle Mingqing for upholding justice. Xiao Hua cupped his hands and said, "This disciple is endlessly grateful." Of course. Mingqing waved his hand and said, "The Feather Immortal Assembly is a reasonable place. How can you blame others for your missing pet?" "That's right," Xiao Hua agreed. "Martial nephew Xiao, rest early. There are still 4 rounds of matches tomorrow." Mingqing nodded slightly and turned to leave. A few Taiching sect disciples followed him. Xiao Hua walked him to the door of the quiet room. Looking at Mingqing's back, he couldn't help but feel very lucky in his heart. "Good boy, I thought I did it without anyone noticing. Who knew that this illusion array actually had such a powerful use? I'm sure the illusion array has already remembered my methods." After thinking for a while, he took out the devil spear point and devil spear shaft. Fortunately, the devil hammer wasn't remembered by the illusion array. Anyway, since Xiaohua had the devil hammer, he probably wouldn't use the devil spear point and devil spear shaft very often in the future. He wasn't afraid that others would know. Besides, in fights of magical powers, magical tools and magical treasures were the right way to go. Using force to break through magical powers could only catch the opponent off guard and couldn't be used too often. It seems that tomorrow, I'll have to hide my abilities. I can't give them any more life and death experiences. What does it have to do with me whether you build your foundation or not? Xiaohua turned and entered the room. If it's Fairy Hong Xia, this penniless priest might consider it. Sai Ruanhua sect and Imperial Thunder sect weren't placed together. I wonder if Fairy Hong Xia passed the 4 rounds today? Xiaohua thought to himself. He gradually calmed down and entered a meditative state. However, just as he took a soul-gathering pill and prepared to cultivate, the restriction of the quiet room flickered again. Motherfucker, are you done yet? Xiaohua was furious. He jumped up from the ground and removed the restriction of the quiet room. He didn't even bother to use his divine sense to scan the room. He opened the door and shouted, "Brats from Changbai sect, do you want to die?" Xiaohua. What is the meaning of this? How can you treat Senior Liao like this? Zhen Qing's very strict voice sounded. Senior Liao? Xiaohua looked. Wasn't Liao Zhouquan behind Zhen Qing? At this moment, Liao Zhouquan's expression was extremely ugly. Xiaohua saw this and hurriedly bowed. Senior Liao, it's all my fault. I wasn't talking about you. Then Xiaohua bowed to Deming, who was beside Liao Zhouquan. Junior greets Senior Deming. Deming's expression was also unhappy. He nodded indifferently. This is bad. Xiaohua secretly complained. He regretted not using his divine sense to check first. Martial nephew Xiao is amazing. My Changbai sect's disciples can be killed by you. Liao Zhouquan said coldly. Zhen Qing glared at Xiaohua and scolded. What is going on? I know that you have always been humble. I'll let the 3 seniors know. Xiaohua asked the 3 seniors to enter the room and sit down. He stood respectfully and told the whole story. Then he said, Disciple really didn't take any spiritual pets, so I can't take out any spiritual insects. Senior Deming, please understand. Oh, so it's like this. Deming's expression softened. He looked at Liao Zhouquan and said, This is Changbai sect's disciples' fault. Fellow Liao, you have to restrain them. I understand. Liao Zhouquan's expression was even uglier than before. He cupped his hands and said, I know about this matter. I have already told them not to harass Martial Nephew Xiao, but I will definitely punish them severely when I return. It's not about the spiritual pets? Xiaohua immediately understood. Of course it's about the storage bag. So Xiaohua took out the storage bag and threw it on the ground. He smiled and said, Senior Deming, Senior Liao, did you two come here for this storage bag? Liao Zhouquan threw the storage bag on the ground in front of him. His eyes twitched a few times. He looked at Zhen Qing awkwardly. Seeing Zhen Qing's cold face, he looked at Deming again. Deming sighed and reached out his hand. The storage bag flew into his hand. When he opened the storage bag, even though Deming was a late-stage golden core cultivator, his expression still changed. After a while he closed the storage bag and threw it to Zhen Qing. He said, Fellow Zhen, you also didn't look at it. Let's take a look first. Yes. Zhen Qing took the storage bag. Her expression was the same as Deming's. Dawish Zhen, now you should know why I'm so thick-skinned as to come and find you, right? Liao Zhouquan smiled bitterly as he spoke with sincerity. Sigh, Zhen Qing sighed again. She threw the storage bag to Xiaohua and said, This thing doesn't belong to Fan Tong, right? Yes. Liao Zhouquan smiled and said, This is my annual tribute. Fan Tong is the disciple who gives out the tributes. Xiaohua, do you think you dare to take these spirit stones and pills? Deming asked kindly. Why wouldn't I dare? Xiaohua said curiously, I won these legitimately. Why wouldn't I dare to take them? Deming smiled and said, You're right. This is the rule of the Feather Immortal Gathering. Our Taiqing sect should naturally protect you. But have you ever thought that what you won should be Fan Tong's personal things? But these are the common things of the Changbai sect. You don't know why you took them. They are all in Fan Tong's storage bag. Even if they are the common things, they are still his personal things. Xiaohua rolled his eyes and said, making him spit out the fat meat from his mouth really made his heart ache. Xiaohua listened to Senior Deming. Zhen Qing scolded. The common things are naturally the common things. They won't be his personal things. Deming waved his hand at Zhen Qing, indicating that it was fine. He said, of course, if the common things are too little and you say they are your personal things, our Taiqing sect will also accept it. We will accompany you to carry out the rules of the Feather Immortal Gathering to the end. But, the amount of spirit stones and pills is so huge. Don't you think they might be his personal things? Xiao Hua muttered a few words, but he didn't say it clearly. Although the spirit stones and pills in my space are less than 10% of the things in this storage bag, those spirit herbs are not less than these. The amount is so huge that it is enough to make the Changbai sect and the Imperial Thunder sect fall out. It is enough for our Taiqing sect to think carefully. It is enough for me to come out and discuss with you. Seeing that Xiao Hua was about to speak again, Deming didn't give him a chance. He said, little friend Xiao, don't talk about the rules of the Feather Immortal Gathering. They are all set by people. Today it is like this, tomorrow it might be like that. Also, the Changbai sect gave enough face to our Taiqing sect and the Imperial Thunder sect on the battle square. In I's opinion, little friend Xiao, you should stop while you are ahead. Rules are set by people. Today it is like this, tomorrow it might be like that. This sentence was like a thunderbolt that shattered the last bit of hope in Xiao Hua's heart. Yes, Xiao Hua was only relying on the rules of the Feather Immortal Gathering. The Taiqing sect had changed the rules. What was there to say? These rules are set by people. They are set by people with great power. I don't have the right to set these rules now. I have to accept these rules that don't exist yet. One day I will set the rules myself. I will set the rules that all of you will have to submit to. Xiao Hua thought to himself. Xiao Hua, I have the same thoughts as Senior Deming. This storage bag still needs to be returned to the Changbai sect. Zhen Qing said softly, also 5 disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect and the Changbai sect have died in the battle today. Dui Mingyue of the Heavenly Thunder Palace and Chen Qingqi of the Heavenly Thunder Palace. This is only the first day. It is much more tragic than expected. I understand. Xiao Hua was sad. Although these 2 disciples didn't say much to him, Xiao Hua still felt uncomfortable when he thought about how they had died. Chapter 1625. A light green light flashed, and a dozen odd green seal characters faintly flowed within the light. Following the light, they slowly flowed into the forehead of a female cultivator. Every time a green seal character entered the forehead of a female cultivator, the female cultivator's brows slightly wrinkled. When all the green seal characters entered, the female cultivator's face became even more unsightly, and actually slightly pale. Fellow Taoist Dong Shan. When these green seal characters enter I's mind, why is it so strange? Why does my head hurt so much? The female cultivator opened her mouth to speak. It was Xuanyin School's sect master, Fairy Yingzhua. This was a rather large secret chamber. The secret chamber was flashing with brilliance from top to bottom, left to right. Within the brilliance, countless runes were faintly discernible, showing that the restriction was very strict. About 10 feet in front of Fairy Yingzhua, there was a dark brown figure covered in a black cloak. No matter how one looked at it with their eyes or spiritual sense, they could not see the figure clearly. The light green brilliance was emitted from the sleeve of this figure. What peeked out of the sleeve was a black, furry finger that was only 3 inches long. Fellow Taoist Yingzhua, I already told you that practicing talismans uses the power of the soul. Only with an incomparably tyrannical body can the main body not be harmed. The green seal characters bear the power of the world's soul. Although fellow Taoist is a nascent soul cultivator, learning the green seal characters will still affect fellow Taoist's soul. An extremely hoarse voice came from the black cloak, and the words were rather obscure. And I know. Since I cultivated to nascent soul from qi refining, what kind of pain have I not experienced? Fairy Yingzhua clenched her teeth and said, what does this pain count as? If this talisman is as fellow Taoist Dong Shan said, and can let I step into the spirit severing stage, then I will definitely comply with our previous agreement and agree to fellow Taoist conditions. Talisman techniques are the most unfathomable Tao in the world, passed down from the mysterious immemorial era. What does a mere spirit severing stage count as? If it wasn't for the fact that talisman techniques have long been lost in the Dawn Rain continent, why would fellow Taoist Yingzhua not trust one? Fellow Taoist Dong Shan said with a smile, how about the cultivation method I passed to you? With this method, your Xuanyin school will be able to cultivate many outstanding disciples. Why worry about the school's prosperity? I'll let you know, fellow Taoist Dong Shan. Fairy Yingjue smiled bitterly and said, "Fellow Taoist's method is not bad, but after all, it is too overbearing. The first time it was used, only 3 disciples were lucky enough to survive. Although their cultivations are now at the 10th level of qi refining, the number of disciples who died is too many. The cultivators of the Dawn Rain continent only cultivate the Tao in the heart. They don't cultivate the body and the soul. Naturally, they can't reach perfection and many dermic formulations are unsuitable. Forget it, fellow Taoist. Yingjue should focus on nurturing these 3 disciples first. Let's see how their futures are before we make our next plan." "Alright, I will listen to your instructions." Fairy Yingjue smiled and said, "Please enlighten me on the green seal text." "Release your divine sense." Fellow Taoist Eastern Mountain said in a low voice. Then, an extremely strange and awkward syllable came out from under the cloak. As soon as the syllable was spoken, an indescribable thing swarmed towards it like a swarm of bees. And when Fairy Yingjue's spiritual will touched the syllable, she immediately felt a tremor from her bone marrow. Then, the syllable turned into a wave and entered Fairy Yingjue's Naiwan palace. How miraculous! Fairy Yingjue, who was already a nascent soul cultivator, couldn't help but praise in her heart. How could she still have any doubts? After a long time, Fairy Yingjue felt that her 3 souls and 7 spirits were brimming with satisfaction. She said in a low voice, "Fellow Taoist Eastern Mountain, please continue." Fellow Taoist Eastern Mountain said calmly, "Tomorrow. Only 1 green seal text can be imparted every day. If there are more than 1, it will incur the wrath of heaven and earth." "And okay." Fairy Yingjue nodded. The 2 didn't speak anymore. The entire room was silent. Xiaohua sat upright in the quiet room provided by the Tai Ching sect. He read the green seal text on the white bone into his mind. Then he looked at the dim white bone. With a wave of his hand, he put it into the space and placed it together with the previous bone. However, right at this moment, Xiaohua discovered that there was a faint flicker of lightning on the white bone. Faintly, there was an extremely dim silver light flashing. Moreover, when the second white bone entered the space, traces of lightning were also produced, surrounding the entire white bone and continuously striking it. What was even more strange was that these 2 white bones couldn't be placed together. They were placed at a fixed angle in the space. The 2 bones were only connected by lightning. These 2 white bones are together? Xiaohua looked at the strange placement of the 2 white bones and couldn't help but think to himself. However, there were only 2 white bones. How could he find any clues? According to Zhu Beibei, her white bones are in the Meng Mountains. It seems that if I have the chance, I should go there and take a look. If I can gather a complete set of bones, what other strange phenomena will occur? Xiaohua was only thinking about it. The Meng Mountains were indeed too far away from him. He wouldn't consider it until he reached the foundation establishment or golden core level. What he needed to consider now was how to participate in the Feather Immortal Assembly. What do those 2 sword cultivators want to exchange for? Xiaohua thought of what Zhen Qing said before she left. What else could it be? Isn't it just a 6,000 years old Darkeen spiritual grass? But I have never even heard of this Darkeen spiritual grass. How could the Changbai sect have it in their storage bag? Since I have the lingy grass that master wants, maybe there is also the Darkeen spiritual grass among those rare and unknown spiritual grass? Xiaohua pondered. His top priority was to know what the Darkeen spiritual grass looked like. Only then could he know if it was still alive in his space. Then Xiaohua took an energy-gathering pill and closed his eyes to cultivate. The next day's competition was also very intense. However, perhaps because of Liao Zhouquan and Zhen Qing's warning, the disciples of the Changbai sect and the thunder-controlling sect didn't fight as fiercely as the first day. Xiaohua also got a bye. His first opponent was a disciple of the Changbai sect. The disciple's cultivation was obviously not as strong as Fan Tong yesterday. He must have known that Fan Tong died in Xiaohua's hands. Before the fight he was submissive. If it wasn't for the Changbai sect's reputation, he would have already surrendered. This kind of disciple. Even if he reached the peak of the 12th realm, how can he build his foundation? Xiaohua sighed in his heart. He was acting like a senior. Why doesn't he think about his own cultivation? A cultivator in the early stage of the 12th realm. He is in the late stage of the 12th realm and is likely to build his foundation tomorrow. Why would he fight with you for no reason? Especially when the outcome of the fight was very likely to be his own death. Although he came to the Feather Immortal gathering to look for the opportunity to build his foundation, he knew that he would die if he fought with you. Anyone would be weak. Since the disciple of the Changbai sect wanted to compromise, Xiao Hua had no objections. The two of them fought for a while. When the time was up, the disciple of the Changbai sect didn't wait for Xiao Hua to speak. He actually escaped from the illusion formation first. That can't be. I still want to go out. Xiao Hua was speechless. He flew out of the illusory formation and straightened his shoulders a couple of times. He wanted to show off his arrogance to the others. Of course, it was the first time Xiao Hua had forced a late-stage cultivator to take the lead in escaping from an illusory formation at the Feather Immortal Assembly since ancient times. Unfortunately, in the entire square, every disciple in the illusion formation was fighting with all their might. The disciples who didn't have a buy were also using the time to conserve their energy. Who would pay attention to him? As for the next 2 rounds of competition, they were also boring. They were the disciples of the Profound Sky sect and the Taiching sect. Although their cultivation wasn't bad, the power of their magic tools wasn't enough. They were about the same as Xiao Hua's fire crow net. Xiao Hua only needed to use Zheng Chen to defend himself, and he was able to fight evenly with them. Moreover, Xiao Hua didn't dare to do anything to build his foundation. When the time was up, he activated his magic tablet and escaped from the illusion formation. What Xiao Hua didn't know was that as soon as he disappeared from the illusion formation, his 2 opponents let out a long sigh of relief. They looked relaxed. Yesterday Xiao Hua and Fan Tong made a big ruckus. Perhaps the disciples of other groups didn't know about it, but many disciples of the Thunder Controlling School had heard about it. Xiao Hua, such a fierce person, was actually able to kill a disciple who was holding a fragment of a magic weapon. Moreover, he did it while the disciple was still able to activate his magic tablet to escape. Who would dare to lower their guard? The second day of competition passed peacefully, but in the next few days the situation seemed to have gotten out of control. Not to mention that the disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect and the Changbai sect gradually broke out in anger. Zhen Qing and Liao Zhouquan's warnings were gradually forgotten. Not to mention that the disciples of the Profound Sky sect and the Taiching sect, as well as the disciples of the other sects who gradually joined them, were also fighting with the disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect and the Changbai sect. None of them showed mercy. As time passed, 2 more disciples of the other groups succeeded in building their foundation. Not only the disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect, but the disciples of the other sects also became anxious. It was as if time didn't wait for them. Every time they fought, they would disregard life and death. Even with Xiao Hua's methods, he was still in a very difficult situation. That night, an illusion formation flashed. Xiao Hua's hair was a bit messy as he rushed out of the illusion formation. He cursed as he flew, "Damn it, this young master can't build his foundation. Why would I fight with you? I already said it clearly, why are you still so stubborn? Xiao Hua, you must not leave." While he was cursing, a plain-clothed female cultivator rushed out of the illusion formation with anger on her face. She was holding a sharp sword in her hand. "Fan Xiaoer, fellow Taoist Fan," Xiao Hua muttered as he landed on the ground, "you've already escaped from the illusory formation. Of course you've won this round. Even though this is your Taiching sect, you don't have to go too far, do you? Your cultivation is clearly profound, why don't you?" Fan Xiaoer saw that things were going south and could only put away her sword. Her face was full of unwillingness. "What? You're only happy if I kill you?" Xiao Hua asked with a cold face. "Why would I hate to die when I hear it in the morning? Foundation building, sigh." Fan Xiaoer glanced at Xiao Hua, then turned and left. Chapter 1626. It's good that you can understand Ai's painstaking efforts. Zhen Qing nodded. There are many times when a person is not a free person. There are many concerns that restrict your actions. You have to compromise and give in. Xiao Hua nodded silently. He thought of Xiao Xinrui and 100 Herbs sect for no reason. Of course, little friend Xiao Changbai sect will also give some compensation. This compensation will make you very satisfied. Deming said with a smile. Yes, the spirit stones and elixirs in the storage bag, little friend Xiao can take 10%. Consider it as a token of our Changbai sect's sincerity. Liao Zhouquan continued. Haha, thank you, Senior Liao. Xiao Hua cupped his hands and said with a smile. However, the elixirs in the storage bag are all for Foundation Establishment cultivators. There are even some elixirs for Golden Core cultivators, right? These are too far away for me. Then what does little friend Xiao mean? Liao Zhouquan was not surprised at all when he saw Xiao Hua talking about conditions. As long as he could talk about conditions, then everything was negotiable. Xiao Hua thought for a moment and said, Other than the 10% of spirit stones and elixirs, can your sect compensate me with a secret manual for refining weapons? Liao Zhouchuan's expression changed slightly and he shook his head. Little friend Xiao is asking for too much. My Changbai sect is good at refining weapons and there are many methods of refining weapons in the sect. However, those are all secrets of the Changbai sect. How can we give them to little friend Xiao? Of course, if little friend Xiao joins my Changbai sect, these methods will not be a problem. Asking for a sky-high price and asking for a low price, Liao Zhouquan was naturally bargaining with Xiaohua. Even if he was willing to let Xiaohua join the Changbai sect, would Xiaohua dare? He would not dare even if you gave him 10 more guts. Therefore Xiaohua's face was full of regret and he said with a smile, if Senior Liao said this 10 years ago, I would not hesitate at all and join the Changbai sect immediately. However, I am now a disciple of the Imperial Thunder sect. How would I dare to betray the sect? Senior Liao should think more about how to compensate me? Liao Zhouquan shrugged his shoulders with a helpless look on his face. Then I'm very sorry that I don't have any refining methods or cultivation methods. Let's see if there's anything else I can help you with. Xiaohua pondered for a moment. There really wasn't much to ask for. The Imperial Thunder sect naturally had foundation establishment cultivation techniques and medicinal pills. Spirit stones and other medicinal pills were abundant in the storage pouch. Although the exquisite leaf scripture was incomplete, Liao Zhouquan definitely didn't have it. The same went for the dragon transformation art. What should I ask for? Xiaohua was somewhat distressed. Should I ask for something for master? Ling Yicao? However, when he thought about it, he had never looked at the jade strip. He didn't even know what Ling Yicao looked like. What if he had it in his space? Senior, please wait a moment. Xiaohua spoke in a low voice, and then he withdrew the jade slip that was given to him helplessly before he left before immersing his divine sense into it to take a look, and then a trace of a grin appeared on the corners of his mouth as he said to himself, so this is Ling Yicao. When Xiaohua first visited the 100 Herbs Gate, he obtained from Jiang Feng a batch of dried seeds that couldn't germinate. Among them, 70% were dead and only 30% were alive. Among them were a few stalks of Ling Yicao. Xiaohua could use the Changbai sect as an excuse to give Ling Yicao to his master. Under everyone's somewhat strange gazes, Xiaohua put away the jade slip and said with a smile, Junior doesn't have any plans. Just as he said this, Xiaohua suddenly had a flash of inspiration. His eyes lit up as he remembered something. He said, Junior doesn't have any plans. However, since Senior Liao is so kind, then Junior saw your sect's senior brother Fan use an incomplete magic treasure in the illusion. If possible, can you give that to Junior? This. Liao Zhouquan was still somewhat hesitant. He said hesitantly, that magic treasure is actually Fan Tong's private property, fellow Taoist Liao. Zhenqing was displeased when she heard this and said coldly, Xiaohua received your spirit stones and medicinal pills, and you said that they were your Changbai sect's property, so Xiaohua had no choice but to return them to Changbai sect. Xiaohua then asked for your incomplete magic treasure, and you said that it was Fan Tong's private property so you couldn't give it to him. Then why don't you tell me in front of Senior Deming, what can you give and what can't you give? Fellow Taoist Zhen, don't be hasty. Liao Zhouquan waved his hand, and 3 magic treasures flew out from his storage bag. They were a box, a short rope and a shiny ball. He said with a smile, I have already prepared them. These 3 magic treasures are all suitable for little friend Xiaohua. Little friend Xiaohua can choose any one of them. Xiaohua's eyes didn't blink, and his divine sense swept over them. He smiled and said, Senior Liao, speaking of magic treasures, the Imperial Thunder sect also has many. Junior is only at the beginning of the 12th level of Qi refining. How many can I use? The magic treasures we have are enough. Junior has thought it through. I only want that magic treasure and I don't want anything else. Beside him, Deming also smiled and said, Fellow Taoist Liao, since you want to gain something, you can only pay the price. In I's opinion, without waiting for Deming to finish, Liao Zhouquan smiled bitterly and said, Fine, fine, fine. Since Senior Deming said so, how can I refuse? He put away the 3 magic treasures and with a wave of his hand, the small bronze seal flew into the air. However, Xiaohua didn't take it and he still looked at Liao Zhouquan with a smile. Little friend Xiao? Liao Zhouquan was puzzled. This is I's biggest concession. Little friend Xiao doesn't have any other requests, right? What requests could Junior have? Xiaohua shook his head. It's just that, this magic treasure doesn't have a method to refine it. Why would Junior want it? To make a paperweight for writing? When Liao Zhouquan heard this, he laughed involuntarily. Little friend Xiao, this is a damaged magic treasure. How could there be a method to refine it? Then forget it. Xiao Hua looked away from the seal, shook his head and said, Junior had better take back the storage bag. Everything we talked about just now was in vain. Alas. Liao Zhouquan also sighed. Just as he was about to speak, Deming saw that the situation was not good and quickly advised. Fellow Taoist Liao, since you've already given away the damaged magic treasure, you don't have to care about the method to refine it. If there's no harm in giving it away. Xiao Hua looked at Liao Zhouquan very calmly. Since Fan Tong could use this Sanskrit, he must have a method to refine it in his storage bag. Sure enough, Liao Zhouquan stared at Xiao Hua for a moment, and the corner of his mouth rose. He smiled and said, Alas, little friend Xiao is really. Without waiting for him to finish, he patted his hand and took out a very old-looking jade slip from his storage bag. With a wave of his hand, the jade slip flew in front of Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua smiled and picked up the jade slip. After looking at it, he respectfully handed it to Zhen Qing and said, Grandmaster, please take a look at it for me. Zhen Qing slightly nodded. She reached out and used her divine sense to look inside. After a moment, her expression slightly changed and she frowned. Fellow Taoist Liao, this method to refine it is not bad. But, why is the method to use it so damaged? There are even some places that are recently damaged? Haha, good to let fellow Taoist Jen know. If this cloud suppression seal wasn't damaged and the method to use it was complete, how could my Changbai sect disciples die? As for the recent damage, it was probably damaged in the illusion formation. Liao Zhouquan said with a smile. Fine. Xiao Hua sighed in his heart. 90% of the spirit stones and pills in the storage bag had to be returned to the Changbai sect. This was inevitable. To be able to get one more damaged magic treasure, it was worth it. And looking at Liao Zhouquan's expression, it seemed like he already knew that he would have such a request. He probably couldn't win against him. Xiao Hua stretched out his hand and put away the suppressing cloud seal. He then took out a storage pouch from his bosom and took 90% of the spirit stones and medicinal pills from Fan Tong's storage pouch. He put them all into his own storage pouch and handed it to Liao Zhouquan with a smile. Senior Liao, please take a look. Fan Tong's storage bag was much bigger than his storage bag. It was a high-quality item. How could Xiao Hua return it to the Changbai sect? Liao Zhouquan took the storage bag and carefully scanned it with his divine sense. He said in shock, Xiao, little friend Xiao? Why did you take 10% of all the pills? What are you going to do with the golden core pills? Xiao Hua was even more surprised when he heard this. What? Didn't we agree on 10%? What's wrong with Junior doing this? And that's it. Liao Zhouquan kept the storage bag and stood up. Many thanks Senior Deming, many thanks fellow Taoist Zhen. He then looked at Xiao Hua. I also have to thank little friend Xiao. Everyone stood up and Xiao Hua bowed. I don't dare, I don't dare. After sending off Deming and Liao Zhouquan, Xiao Hua turned around and handed over a golden core pill to Zhen Qing. He smiled and said, I don't know what this pill is, but looking at Senior Liao's pained expression, it seems to be a golden core pill. Please accept it, martial ancestor Zhen. Zhen Qing looked at it and waved his hand. He smiled and said, This soul-solidifying pill is a pill used by the Changbai sect to solidify the soul. I won't be polite with you. Martial ancestor Zhen, do you have any other pills that are useful? Disciples Master is only a foundation establishment cultivator. He has no use for golden core pills. Xiao Hua took Fan Tong's storage bag and asked. There is no need, there is no need. Zhen Qing laughed and said, These golden core pills can be considered as free. In fact, when Liao Zhouquan said 10% of the pills, it was 10% of the total value of all the pills. He probably wanted you to take more of the building foundation pills, gathering essence pills and other pills. But before he could say anything, you took all the pills. You made him speechless. As he spoke, he gave the old jade scroll to Xiao Hua and said, Keep this jade scroll well. Even though the cloud-suppressing seal is a low-level magic treasure, it requires a lot of magic power. You're just a chi-refining realm early-stage disciple, you can't provide it. Wait until you reach the late stage. Yes, disciple understands. Xiao Hua took it respectfully. He felt that his magic power was comparable to a chi-refining realm late-stage cultivator. Since Fan Tong could use it, there was no reason why he couldn't. Rest early. Zhen Qing turned and left. There are 4 more rounds tomorrow. I don't know if the Changbai sect disciples can restrain themselves. This feather immortal gathering. Oh, right, the two sword cultivators from Huan country want to exchange something with the cultivators from the three cultivation countries. They didn't say what it was. You got so many pills for free you can go take a look? Zhen Qing turned around and said after walking halfway. Yes, disciple understands. Xiao Hua bowed and thanked him. After Zhen Qing left, Xiao Hua activated the restriction in the quiet room and sat down cross-legged. He took out the white bone, the cloud-suppressing seal and the jade scroll. After staring at it for a moment, he put away the cloud-suppressing seal and picked up the white bone. Using the mana in his hand, a wisp of samadhi true fire that was much thicker than before was born from his palm and burned on the white bone. Sure enough, with the addition of the samadhi true fire, the white bone emitted a faint green brilliance in the pure purple flames of the samadhi true fire. Not long after, crooked green seal characters that were somewhat similar to tadpoles emerged from the green light. Chapter 1627. Alas, no matter what, I can't make another foundation establishment cultivator. Although Xiao Hua looked at Fan Shower's back and felt very lonely, he kept warning himself that if he did it again and again, it would definitely attract the attention of others. In fact, Xiao Hua himself also understood that on the first day of the Feather Immortal Assembly, there were two aura-refining disciples competing with him to build their foundation. Moreover, the illusory formation had the function of recording images. Presumably, the disciples of the Tai Ching sect would take the time to watch it. Regarding this, Xiao Hua had already thought of an explanation. He was strong and his magic power was stronger than those late-stage 12th layer aura-refining disciples. That was all. Xiao Hua's true samadhi fire and devil hammer also didn't leave behind any images, which made Xiao Hua feel slightly relieved. Junior Martial Brother Xiao, why were you chased out? Could it be that you took advantage of her inside? A giggling voice sounded. Xiao Hua didn't need to turn around to know that it was Qian Diheng. What? Senior Martial Brother Qian, have you ever been chased out like this? Xiao Hua had seen Qian Diheng a lot these past few days. He also felt that this guy was smiling mischievously and was easy to get close to. At least, he wasn't as disgusting as Thunder Palace's Thunder Mountain Range's Zhen Qikue. Therefore he talked to Qian Diheng more often. Cough cough. I actually wanted to. But the people I met were all ruthless and cruel. Qian Diheng's words were somewhat weak. When Xiao Hua turned around to look, he saw that Qian Diheng's face was pale and his expression was extremely dispirited. At first glance, it was obvious that he had used too much of his magic power to control that protective magic treasure of his. Senior Martial Brother Qian, if you can't do it, you'd better give up. Xiao Hua kindly advised. Tisiju, an early-stage 12th layer aura-refining disciple of the Thunder Palace, didn't give up. How can I give up? If word got out, would you still let I mingle in the thunder-controlling sect? Qian Diheng rolled his eyes at Xiao Hua and said unhappily. Fine, I didn't say anything. Xiao Hua waved his hand. Just as he was about to leave, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth suddenly started to condense in the air about 1 zhang to his left. In the blink of an eye, soybean-sized crystals gradually appeared. Someone wants to build their foundation. Xiao Hua, who had seen Li Zongbao build his foundation, immediately realized. Qian Diheng also had a happy expression. He shouted, "It seems to be our group. I wonder who it is." While they were talking, a few divine senses swept over. They were Changbai sect's Liao Zhouquan, Imperial Thunder sect's Zhen Qing, Black Heaven sect's Jing Hao, Celestial Music sect's Tian Wei, and the other representatives. After identifying the illusion array, Black Heaven sect's Jing Hao and Imperial Thunder sect's Zhen Qing flew to the front of the illusion array. The disciples fighting inside the illusion array were the disciples of Black Heaven sect and Imperial Thunder sect. The ball in the illusory array gradually emitted a faint green light. Then, with a flash of light, a disciple came out from the illusory array. The condensed heaven and earth spiritual qi in the surroundings swarmed towards that disciple. When Zhen Qing saw it clearly, joy appeared on her face. It was Qian Heng from the Heavenly Thunder Palace who had reached the foundation building realm. Then Zhen Qing waved her hand and cast out a seal that temporarily separated the heaven and earth spiritual qi from Qian Heng's body. She smiled and said, "Congratulations, Qian Heng. Are you going to build your foundation now? Or should I use the spirit accumulation talisman?" Qian Heng probably already had a plan in mind. He smiled and said, "Thank you for your trouble, Grandmaster Zhen. I would like to use the divine accumulation talisman." "Good," Zhen Qing praised. She waved her hand and a shiny talisman flew out from her hand. It should have been prepared beforehand. The talisman landed on Chen Heng's head and sank into his body. A clear light flashed on his body and disappeared. As the clear light disappeared, the condensed heaven and earth spiritual qi in the surroundings also disappeared. The extremely dense heaven and earth spiritual qi also returned to normal. Thank you, martial ancestor Jen. Chen Heng bowed and thanked her. No need. You can call me martial uncle from now on. Jen Qing was in a good mood. She waved her hand and said, you should go back to the quiet room to comprehend and stabilize your foundation. If you can't control it, it's better for you to build your foundation as soon as possible. Disciple understands. Thank you, martial uncle Jen. Chen Heng cupped his hands and returned to the quiet room. Good, my Imperial Thunder sect finally has a disciple who has reached the foundation building realm. Jen Qing looked around and said with a smile, you all have to work hard too. Yes, disciple understands. Everyone bowed and answered. After Jen Qing left, Chen Diheng waved his hand and said, let's go, junior brother Xiao. Today is another day. I need to go back to the quiet room to take some pills and recover my magic power. What about you? Then he looked at Xiao Hua and shook his head. You don't seem to have used much magic power? I ran away as soon as I saw you. Of course, I can't compare to you when you used your magic weapon. Xiao Hua smiled and said, let's go. There are only a few days left. After the group battles, those who can't enter the top 32 can relax. That's right. There are 13 sects participating in the Feather Immortal Assembly in the Cultivation 3 Kingdoms. On average, each sect can only send 3 disciples. I'm afraid I won't make it. Chen Diheng looked at Xiao Hua again and said, junior brother Xiao hid his strength well. You can even kill Fan Tong of the Changbai sect. I think you can enter the second round of the competition, right? Xiao Hua waved his hand and said, I was just lucky. In the next few battles, I relied on my flying talisman to escape. It's impossible for me to enter the top 32. Hearing Xiao Hua's words, Chen Diheng didn't ask any more. The two of them walked towards the pavilion of the Imperial Thunder sect. When they arrived at the pavilion, Chen Diheng walked in quickly. He wanted to go back and take the elixir earlier. However, Xiao Hua seemed to remember something and shouted, oh, right. Senior brother Chen, do you know about the mysterious spirit grass? Mysterious spirit grass? Of course I know about it. Chen Diheng was surprised. He stopped and said carelessly, why are you asking about it? Nothing. I just want to know what it looks like. Xiao Hua smiled and said, so it's like that. Chen Diheng patted his storage bag and took out a jade slip. He handed it over and said, this jade slip contains the records of the Imperial Thunder sect. Take a look. Well, you don't have to return it to me. I'll ask senior brother to make a copy for me. Thank you, senior brother Chen. Xiao Hua took the jade slip. Chen Diheng left in a hurry. Immersing his divine sense into the jade slip, Xiao Hua was overjoyed. There were many records of the mysterious spirit grass in this jade slip. There were diagrams and introductions. It was exactly what Xiao Hua needed. This is the mysterious spirit grass? Xiao Hua quickly found the records of the mysterious spirit grass. Ei's character is good. I exchanged it for a bunch of mysterious spirit grass seeds in Jinghua City. The little cultivators of the grass spirit sect are also very generous. This mysterious spirit grass is among them. Xiao Hua saw it clearly and couldn't help but laugh inwardly. But why are these two-sword cultivators looking for this mysterious spirit grass? This thing seems to be the main ingredient for refining the mysterious spirit pill. The mysterious spirit pill is used by Oris core stage cultivators to strengthen their primordial spirit. These two little sword cultivators are only at the early stage of foundation establishment. Why do they need this thing? Xiao Hua hesitated slightly and thought, if I can use this mysterious spirit grass to exchange for a sword pill cultivation method or a flying sword technique, that would be great. Thinking, Xiao Hua picked a stalk of mysterious spirit grass and put it in a jade box. He put it in his storage bag and walked out of the pavilion. Then he asked the patrolling Tai Ching sect disciple where the two sword cultivators lived. Only then did he look for them. Before he arrived, he saw that there were already a few disciples in front of the pavilion. Xiao Hua scratched his chin and walked behind the last disciple. He cupped his hands and said in a low voice, Senior brother, are you? I'm looking for the sword cultivators of Huan country to exchange for something. That disciple didn't wait for Xiao Hua to finish and answered. Thank you, senior brother. Xiao Hua thanked and stood behind this disciple. After a while, he still didn't see any disciples coming out of the pavilion. He heard the disciple in front become impatient. He turned his head and asked, I am Kunlun sect's Kuxingxi. Which sect is fellow Taoist from? I am from Imperial Thunder sect. Oh, she country's Imperial Thunder sect. Kuxingxi glanced at Xiaohua and said with a smile, what do you want to exchange for something with the sword cultivators? I don't have anything good. I just came to see what the sword cultivators have or what they want. Xiaohua said with a smile. Kuxingxi glanced at Xiaohua and said in a low voice, if fellow Taoist Xiao is like this, then it's better to turn back as soon as possible. Why does fellow Taoist Ku say that? Xiaohua was surprised. Fellow Taoist Xiao doesn't know. Kuxingxi said mysteriously, this is already the third day I came here. What you don't know is that those two sword cultivators only wanted this penniless priest to show them the items. They didn't even say what they wanted, nor did they say what they wanted in exchange. Tell me, how could this penniless priest casually give them the items? Therefore there are many people like Junior Brother Xiao who come to test things every day, and all of them come out with their tails between their legs. If fellow Taoist Xiao doesn't have anything rare, then it's better to turn back and not waste time. So it's like that. Xiaohua came to a realization. He raised his hand and pointed, saying, fellow Taoist Ku, look, someone came out. A cultivator who wasn't tall and had an ordinary appearance walked out of the pavilion with his head drooped. Second brother, how is it? Kuxingxi waved his hand and called out. That cultivator heard Kuxingxi's call and walked over. He looked at Xiaohua and said in a low voice, it's hopeless, big brother. I tried several times but couldn't get anything out of them. I took out a bunch of things but they didn't even look at them. You still want to go in and try? And I'll go in and take a look. After all, Huan country has a lot of things that our 3 cultivation countries don't have. What if I have something they need? Kuxingxi nodded and said, go back and rest early. There's still a competition tomorrow. After that cultivator left, Kuxingxi said with a smile, that's I's younger brother, Ku Qiaoyong. Fellow Taoist Ku is really amazing. Even your younger brother is in the late stage of the 12th layer of the aura refining realm. I really admire you. Xiaohua said with great admiration, somewhat aghast. It's nothing. Although Kuxingxi's expression was somewhat proud, he still waved his hand and said, those 2 sword cultivators are really amazing. They're both in the early stage of the foundation building realm. After the time it took to eat a meal, it was finally Xiaohua's turn. Seeing Kuxingxi's expressionless face, Xiaohua knew this guy didn't have profound Yin grass. Chapter 1628. Fellow Taoist, you can go in. The Taiching sect disciple guarding the pavilion saw Kuxingxi come out and said to Xiaohua with a smile. The smile on his face was extremely dull, as if he had said this sentence countless times. Many thanks, fellow Taoist. Xiaohua cupped his hands and entered the pavilion. This pavilion was similar to the Imperial Thunder sects, but it had fewer quiet rooms. There was a rather large carved wooden door in front of it. Xiaohua could see that Kuxingxi came out from that wooden door. Pushing open the wooden door, Xiaohua saw a large hall inside. Zhang Yutong and Zhang Yuhe were bored to death sitting there. Zhang Yuhe even puffed up her cheeks and used her cherry lips to blow something in the air. Xiaohua glanced around and saw a small purple sword flying back and forth in the air, just like a swimming fish. Cough cough. Seeing someone come in, Zhang Yutong coughed. Zhang Yuhe glanced at Xiaohua unhappily and sucked the small purple sword into her mouth like a swallow returning to its nest. When Zhang Yuhe saw Xiaohua, her eyes lit up. She pointed at Xiaohua and said, huh? Aren't you that sister? Zhang Yutong rebuked in a low voice, then cupped her hands and said, fellow Taoist seems to have met before? Xiaohua smiled bitterly. Presumably, these 2 sisters had seen too many cultivators in the past few days and had long forgotten his name. He cupped his hands and said, I, Xiaohua, greet the 2 fellow Taoists again. Yes, Xiaohua. Zhang Yuhe didn't seem to hide her forgetfulness. She slapped her forehead and said, your name is too vulgar, I really can't remember it. Zhang Yutong looked at her twin sister as if she had been defeated. She waved her hand and activated the magic tablet on the table, activating the restriction in the hall. Then she put her index and middle finger together and pointed at the wooden door. A green brilliance hit the wooden door, and a circle of green brilliance rippled from the wooden door, instantly wrapping the entire hall from top to bottom. Fellow Taoist Xiao, please sit. Zhang Yutong pointed at the chair beside her and said with a smile, I wonder what good things fellow Taoist Xiao has brought to exchange with us sisters. Zhang Yuha rolled her eyes at Zhang Yutong, and then a sly smile appeared on her face, like a little fox that saw its prey. She turned to look at Xiao Hua. Could it be the thing I told you before? Xiao Hua sat down on the chair and said confidently, I came precisely with this item. May I know what fellow Taoists have to exchange for? What? Is there really one? Zhang Yuha and Zhang Yutong looked at each other with a look of disbelief. They stood up almost at the same time and asked, You really have a 6,000-year-old profoundine spirit grass? Fellow Taoists, don't make such a fuss over nothing. Xiao Hua waved his hand and said, I do have the profoundine spirit grass, but I can't be sure of its age. I still need you two fellow Taoists to appraise it yourselves. Of course. As long as fellow Taoist Xiao has it, I will naturally know its age. Zhang Yuha said anxiously, Then the spirit grass, Xiao Hua said unhurriedly, the spirit grass is naturally an eye's storage pouch. After saying that, he patted his storage pouch but didn't take out the jade box. Zhang Yuha shouted, Take it out and let I see it. Fellow Taoists, please sit down first. We'll talk slowly. Xiao Hua waved his hand and said with a smile. Zhang Yutong frowned slightly and pulled Zhang Yuha to sit down. She said with a smile, Fellow Taoist Xiao, are you waiting for a good price? Fellow Taoist, you can say that. Xiao Hua nodded slightly, looked around and said, May I know what fellow Taoist is going to exchange for the spirit grass? What do you want? Zhang Yutong thought for a moment and asked calmly. Do you have anything I want? This. Zhang Yutong hesitated and Zhang Yuha said impatiently, We have spirit stones, best quality pills and a magic weapon. Sister. Zhang Yutong stopped Zhang Yuha again and repeatedly signaled her not to say more. Also, I have a 700-year-old mother-son spirit fruit in my storage pouch. It will be extremely helpful for you to break through. Zhang Yuha looked at Zhang Yutong and still said it. Ai, Zhang Yutong sighed, looked at Xiao Hua and said, Sister has told you everything we have. Which one do you want? Xiao Hua smiled and shook his head. What? You don't want anything? Don't you want to know what the magic weapon is? Zhang Yuha jumped up and said, That is a complete magic weapon. I don't have enough cultivation. I don't want any magic weapon. Xiao Hua said calmly, I only want your Xian sword sex sword nurturing and sword driving technique. Impossible. Zhang Yuha and Zhang Yutong said at the same time. Then forget it. Xiao Hua spread his hands, shrugged, stood up and said, Fellow Taoists, please remove the restriction. I will take my leave. Zhang Yuha and Zhang Yutong waited for several days. Finally, someone came to give them spirit herbs. How could they let it go? Zhang Yuha walked over and smiled, Fellow Taoist Xiao is not a sword cultivator. What do you want my Xian sword sex sword driving technique for? Fellow Taoist doesn't need to worry about this. I just like to look and I am prepared to read all the spells in the world. Xiao Hua said with a smile. I'm afraid that fellow Taoist Xiao also got a sword pill? Zhang Yuha stared at Xiao Hua's eyes and asked. Maybe not. You can slowly guess. Xiao Hua didn't give in and answered. At this time, Zhang Yutong also walked over and said sincerely, Fellow Taoist Xiao, sword cultivators like us are not the same as cultivators like you. It's not that we sisters want to make things difficult for you. If you take my Xian sword sex sword driving technique, you won't be able to cultivate it. You will also delay your cultivation for no reason. This is really unwise. Xiao Hua smiled, This is I's hobby. Even if I just look at it, I will be happy. Zhang Yutong and Zhang Yuha were helpless. After discussing for a while, Zhang Yutong said, Does fellow Taoist Xiao want my Xian sword sex sword driving technique? Or is it okay as long as it is a sword cultivator? Xiao Hua rolled his eyes and said, Xian sword sex is the best. If it really doesn't work, other sword cultivators' techniques are also fine. Hearing this, Zhang Yuha let out a sigh of relief. She clapped her hands and took out a sword-shaped jade slip. She said with a smile, I have a sword driving technique here. It is something from my declining sword cultivator sect. I can exchange it with fellow Taoist Xiao. However, let me say this first. I have never seen this thing before. Xiao Hua was overjoyed. He reached out his hand to take it and said with a smile, This thing is naturally something that I picked up on the side of the road. It has nothing to do with your sisters. However, where Xiao Hua's hand reached, there was nothing. Zhang Yuha said with a smile, Fellow Taoist Xiao is not kind. Why didn't you take out the spiritual grass? Xiao Hua's face turned red. He clapped his hands and took out the jade box containing the spiritual grass. He handed it over and said with a smile, "I was too happy and forgot. Fellow Taoists, please appraise it." Zhang Yutong was also overjoyed. She reached out her hand to take a look. When she opened the jade box, she was first pleasantly surprised, but then her face was puzzled. Finally, she was actually a little angry. "What? Is it wrong?" Seeing that Zhang Yutong's expression was so rich, Xiao Hua, who had been staring at her the whole time, felt his heart sink. Zhang Yuhe was also stunned. She snatched the jade box. When she saw the spiritual grass inside, her face also showed incomparable disappointment. She clapped her hands and put the sword-shaped jade slip into her storage bag. She said coldly to Xiao Hua, "Fellow Taoist Xiao, could it be that you are making fun of my sisters?" Xiao Hua was anxious and said, "The age of this spiritual grass, is it not enough?" Zhang Yuhe said helplessly, "The age is naturally enough. Unfortunately, this is not profoundine spiritual grass." "How is that possible? Isn't this profoundine grass?" Xiao Hua said anxiously. But after he said that, he realized that it was profoundine grass and not profoundine spiritual grass. Thinking, he felt that he should take out the jade slip. No, it recorded profoundine grass, and not profoundine spiritual grass. "Fellow Taoist Xiao, what I want is profoundine spiritual grass. Not this profoundine grass." Zhang Yutong saw that Xiao Hua misunderstood and explained in a low voice, "Profoundine spiritual grass is a kind of profoundine grass that grows in the profoundine illusory realm. Although it is profoundine grass, it is different from ordinary profoundine grass. It absorbs a special kind of spiritual energy from the profoundine illusory realm, so it is called profoundine spiritual grass." "Ai, so that's it. I'm really ignorant." Xiao Hua smiled bitterly. He reached out to take back the profoundine grass. Who would have thought that he would reach out to nothing? "What?" Xiao Hua was slightly surprised. "Fellow Taoist Xiao, please wait a moment." Zhang Yuhe suddenly thought of something and said in a low voice. Immediately, Zhang Yutong and Zhang Yuhe communicated with each other again. This time the two discussed for a longer time. It seemed that there was still some disagreement and their faces were actually red. But in the end, it was Zhang Yuhe who gained the upper hand. Zhang Yutong sat back in her chair and didn't speak anymore. "Fellow Taoist Xiao." Zhang Yuhe was somewhat proud of herself. She smiled and said, "I discussed with my sister. Although your profoundine grass is not profoundine spiritual grass, its medicinal age is sufficient. And to tell you the truth, Tai Ching sect also promised to give I a profoundine grass. It's just that the profoundine grass is not as old as fellow Taoist Zhao's, so I decided to exchange the spiritual grass with you." Hearing this, Xiao Hua was overjoyed. He cupped his hands and said, "Thank you, fellow Taoist Zhang. You don't need to thank me so early. Because your profoundine spiritual grass is not profoundine spiritual grass, I'm afraid I can't give you the sword controlling technique." "What? Not the sword controlling technique?" Hearing this, Xiao Hua immediately shook his head like a rattledrum. He repeatedly said, "Other than the sword controlling technique, I don't want anything else." "I's magic treasure. Don't you want to see it?" Zhang Yuhe said enticingly. Then she patted her storage bag and took out a golden hairpin. "No." Without even looking, he waved his hand and said, "This thing is of little value to I. I can't eat it nor use it. I don't want to see it, I don't want to see it." Zhang Yuhe didn't expect that even a magic treasure would not be able to move Xiao Hua. She angrily said, "I persuaded my sister with great difficulty, and you're not going to give me any face? Today you're exchanging whether you want to or not. The profoundine grass is in I's hands. I'd like to see how you're going to take it away." As she spoke, she opened her small mouth, and the small purple sword flew out once more. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.